At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Josh Graham.
With you until 3 a.m. Eastern on Westwood One Sports. And where do we even begin? Opening day across Major League Baseball. Shout out to Trevor Rogers and the Baltimore Orioles starting 1-0. And then we have the Sweet 16 that's underway. Already delivering. Quick scoreboard check shows us Houston trailing Illinois 24-22 at halftime. And remember when we said the concern with Arkansas was that they weren't going to play a lot of defense? Well, Arizona is on pace for about 110 because with 5 seconds remaining in the first half, Arizona up 11, 54-43. Jaden Bradley can't score at the horn. That is your halftime score. We'll have plenty of time to break down those games. Let's actually start with the two games already in the book that were both decided in the final minute. Begrudgingly, it's time to take Purdue basketball seriously again. The Boilers have overcome the odds to find their game, their best game, at the absolute ideal time. Going into the postseason, Purdue was a write-off, at least as title contenders. This was a team that lost 3 of its final 4 games to close the regular season and 4 of the last 6. And despite this, they figured out a way to roll to the Big Ten Tournament Championship and hand Michigan just its 3rd loss of the year, including that run and what we're seeing now. They've won 7 in a row, and they did so today without Braden Smith playing his best. He was under 50% shooting, and he got the basketball following Texas tying up the game. Trayvon Mark was great again with 29 in the game. You knew it was going to go to Braden Smith. He missed the final shot in a tie, but fortunately, he got some help for the winner. Here's how it sounded, courtesy of our teammates here at Westwood One Sports.
No fouls to give for Texas. They get it into Smith. The clock starts. Smith into the front court. 8 seconds left. Has it out between the circles. Smith working against Weaver. Dribbles right. Puts up a runner right of the lane. Banks it off. Tip by Kaufman. Red is good. 0.7 to go. 79-77 Purdue. Inbound right side Pope. 3-quarter court at the horn is no good. And Purdue wins for the 2nd time in 3 years. The Boilermakers will go to the Elite Eight. Trey Kaufman ran with the tip in, and Purdue wins 79-77, and the Boilermakers run continues.
Ryan Ratke on the call. What a game. Let's not forget, Purdue began the season as the preseason #1 team. They have one of the best college point guards of all time in Braden Smith. He broke the career assist record in March, earlier this month. We've all heard the expression of how guards win in March. We're familiar with this. There are a handful of other guys that have a ton of experience this time of year. Fletcher Lawyer comes to mind. This is the 3rd straight year that Purdue has advanced to the 2nd weekend. Now they are 1 win away from making their 2nd Final Four in 3 seasons. It also might be time, begrudgingly, to put some respect on Big Ten basketball as well. They already have a 4th of the Elite Eight currently, and they could add more tonight. Illinois leading Houston at halftime. Both Michigan and Michigan State are in action tomorrow. Because of the tourney success we're seeing the conference enjoy right now, that's more reason to perhaps respect how tested Purdue has been prior to postseason play, how prepared they might be to perhaps go on a run into beyond March, into the month of April, shall we say. Shout out to those Purdue Boilermakers. In order to call yourself, though, let's get something clear. In order to call yourself the best conference in college basketball, though, you need to win a title to say that. Don't care how many Elite Eight teams that you get. Honestly, do not care. See, I'm in the ACC corner of the universe. I'm in what they call ACC country, coming at you live from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And I was told when Duke and North Carolina went to the Final Four in 2022, well, you only got 5 bids, and even though you had half the Final Four, you didn't win the championship. Big Ten, if you want people to really take you seriously, you get all these bids every year, and you never win a title. The last time the Big Ten has won a national championship in men's college basketball, Michigan State in 2000. None of the players competing in this tournament were alive the last time the Big Ten won a national championship. So in order for you to call yourself, see a lot of Big Ten folks puffing their chest out. Even see Oliver, who's taking your calls at 310-840-4910, is a Maryland guy giving you the fist pump. Oh, it's time to respect Big Ten basketball. Not time to respect Maryland. They had a tough year. Got to win the title, though. Got to finish it off, because right now they're off to a terrific start to this tournament, and Purdue looks really good, kind of like the team we thought they were going to be way back in early November. Here's the question we're asking related to the Big Ten, and we're asking related to this NCAA tournament tonight. Does Iowa qualify as Cinderella? 310-840-4910 if you want in. You can text us. You can call us. Does Iowa qualify as a Cinderella? 310-840-4910. Oliver's taking your calls. Denton Day with us as the producer of this program earlier today. He was out at Media Day for the D.C. Regional, where Duke's going to face St. John's tomorrow night, and you're also going to get Michigan State and UConn. D-Day, how would you answer the question? Iowa, do they qualify as a Cinderella?
Definitively, they are a Cinderella. They've been an underdog seed in every single matchup they've played. And they will be an underdog seed in every single matchup that they play. They're a Power 4 team, so I guess it's kind of weird, but they didn't have expectations. Who had Iowa going past the round of 32?
Right, so the conference doesn't matter so much. It's about whether or not you're an underdog is how you're defining it. So NC State, for example, 2 years ago, who got hot, won 5 games in 5 days, went to the Final Four. They qualify as an underdog or a Cinderella as well.
Yes, UCLA, even a few years further back, when they were an 11 seed first 4 and got all the way, yeah, that's a Cinderella to me. If your expectations are to get blown out in round number 2, and you may get past that to the Sweet 16, in this case the Elite 8, yeah, that's a Cinderella run.
310-840-4910. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is Iowa Cinderella? Almost said Inderella. Don't know what the heck that would be. Is this heaven? No. It's Iowa and March Madness. What a finish to Iowa and Nebraska. It's Farmageddon. Once again, our teammates at Westwood One on the call. Here was the final finish, or here was the finish where the Hawkeyes win the game.
Koch inbounds to Sturts, and net will do it here in Houston. Ben McCollum and Iowa's magical season will continue. The Hawkeyes dancing to the Elite 8. They erase a 10-point deficit and knock off Nebraska 77-71.
Spiro Dides works for Westwood One? Wow. Oh, we got quite the roster here of play-by-play guys, for sure. Spiro does an excellent job. Who needs Cinderella, though, when you have Farmageddon? Regardless of what your opinion on Cinderella is, both these schools, underdogs. As a 9 seed, Iowa is the lowest seeded Big Ten team to ever make an Elite 8. The Hawkeyes, they're headed to the Elite 8 for the first time for their program in 39 years. And let's not forget, Nebraska is coming off the first 2 NCAA tournament victories in their program's history. Prior to March, they were the only high major school to have never won an NCAA tournament game before. And as much as the winners should be the story tonight, it's hard to ignore the missed opportunity that Nebraska had here. Nebraska completely ran out of gas in unfortunate fashion. The Huskers, they were in control throughout. They led by as many as 10. Iowa didn't lead in this game until 2:10 to go, but nothing was worse than what happened in the final minute. Iowa's up 3, 45 seconds to go roughly. So you're still trying to defend without fouling. You just hit a 3 to cut the margin to 71-68. But then you lose off the inbound from your baseline, from their baseline, Alvaro Figueres, who catches it on the plus side of the court, dunks it home, lays it in, and one. You lose him, And what makes it even more egregious, the reason you lost him is because you only had 4 players on the court. You had 4 players on the court when the ball was inbounded. Stan Van Gundy on the TV broadcast was all over this. They got 4 guys on the court. Just like against Florida. Credit to Iowa for capitalizing on the higher-ranked team having a defensive error. Well, I guess Iowa isn't higher-ranked, but capitalizing on your opponent's defensive error in the final minute of a game. Inexplicably, Florida decided to do that press in order to try to put some pressure on Iowa, and Bennett Sturts immediately hit Figueres in the corner to hit the 3 to send Florida home, send the one seed home. In this case, you only have 4 guys on the court. You lose that same guy, Figueres. He gets that and one that's so important. Figueres off the bench, Tate Sage off the bench, combined for 35. Bennett Sturts, ho-hum, 20 points to lead the way for the Hawks. Iowa definitely qualifies as Cinderella. You can let us know if you agree or disagree. We feel pretty strongly about this. Text us, call us, 310-840-4910. Consider this. Ben McCollum is in his first year taking over for Fran McCaffrey, who was at Iowa forever. But it's been 3 years since Iowa had made the tournament. And you get to the tourney as a 9 seed, playing in an 8-9 game and then getting a 1 seed in your first year with the Hawkeyes. And remember when we were told, oh, this tournament's going to be all chalk. That's what March Madness is now. Oh, you had the 4 number 1 seeds advance last year. And suddenly, based on that small sample size, that's just what college basketball is now. Phooey. Iowa to the Elite Eight, and they're going to be underdogs again, regardless of who they draw on Saturday night. If it's Houston, you're going to be the ultimate underdogs, a 9 versus a 2, and you're playing in their home city. But even against Keaton Wagler and Illinois, you'd be an underdog in that game too. At this point, that's what Iowa probably prefers. Keep doubting them. They'll keep making you look foolish. Farmageddon delivering. Just like March Madness always delivering. Iowa. Feels fitting that Iowa does this on opening day. Insert all your favorite Field of Dreams references here. Do you want to have a catch? We'll talk baseball. We promise. See, Oliver getting a bit antsy over there. We'll have some time for it in addition to your calls and texts at 310-840-4910. It is Westwood One Sports Night. And while the North Carolina basketball job opened up this week, that wasn't even the most bizarre coaching opening to happen in that state, as we learned today. By the way, Steve Forbes, speaking of coaches in that state, ACC head coach at Wake Forest, is going to join us at the top of next hour. There's a lot to do, and we're just getting started here on Westwood One Sports Night. DraftKings Sportsbook, the number 1 sportsbook for live betting, is built for March. The tournament is unexpected. Rewards are guaranteed. DraftKings Sportsbook delivering the most generous rewards in the market. With DraftKings, the number 1 sportsbook for live betting, you're not betting what might happen. You're betting what's happening. New to DraftKings, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code Westwood. That's code Westwood to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets instantly. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MyReset. New York, call 877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. Must be 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. 1 reward per customer. Rewards vary and expire at the end of the final college basketball game, each tourney round when offered. See terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos for more details.
Tournament tension is at an all-time high.
On the way, and good!
And we've got your front row seat. Stream all of March Madness on the Westwood One app.
It's up, it's down!
From your home of the NCAA tournament, Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Linnell's here? No, he's still out in D.C. trying to grab some sound. Don't think that that's actually still open this late at night. But he's going to be at the Sweet 16 games tomorrow, as will Denton Day. So be sure to follow our YouTube channel at Westwood One Sports Night and see some of their coverage. They already had some from Media Day earlier today. Shout out to our guy, Linnell Willingham, working hard, just trying to meet the standard. That's all we're doing here. Is Iowa a Cinderella? 310-840-4910. You could text us. You can call us if you want in. Now let's get to this insane coaching carousel that's going on. And it's all compressed as of right now to the state I happen to call home. As crazy as it might seem for North Carolina to fire Hubert Davis this week and that job be open outside of the Carolina family for the first time in, 70 or so years? The Tar Heels don't have anything on their rivals from Raleigh right down the road, because this Will Wade situation, good God. But here's the thing. Today's news, it's a bad look for Will Wade, of course, who after 1 year in Raleigh bolts to LSU, going back to the program that was in shambles because of Will Wade just a handful of years ago, and the fact that he was a cheater and a liar and all of those things that we just look past now. It's a bad look for Will Wade, yes, but it's also a bad look for NC State as well. But starting with Will Wade, he bailed on the Wolfpack because, and don't let him tell you anything differently. Oh, it was personal for me to go back to LSU, personal for my family. He bailed on the Wolfpack because he didn't know what he signed up for. This is the part where it's valuable for me to tell you, I'm from just outside of Raleigh. My dad's an NC State fan. My brother went to Carolina. I went to East Carolina. I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I understand the sports scene very well in North Carolina, which is different than any other place in the country, because you got not one, not two, not three, but 4 ACC programs, ACC schools, all located in the same state. 3 of them within an hour of each other. NC State, North Carolina, and Duke. Why is that relevant here? Well, people also treat those schools as if they're professional teams. Yes, this state's got the Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets, who are red hot, and the Carolina Hurricanes, who've been great the last decade, won a Stanley Cup 20 years ago. But the college teams have always come first here. And there's a level of scrutiny you receive coaching on Tobacco Road in basketball that's just different. You're not the team in your town. You're a team. You're one of 4. And you're always going to be fighting an uphill battle with Duke and North Carolina, the Blue Bloods. Juxtapose that dynamic with Baton Rouge, where you can never beat Kentucky. He didn't do it all that much when he was at LSU the first time. You can never win anything of consequence. It'd still be brought back, despite being caught cheating, despite being caught lying. And the reason that happens is because, it's a football school. When you're not playing well in basketball, we'll just pay closer attention to baseball this time of year. And that's fine. It's a much cozier place to be if you're Will Wade. John Rothstein calls Will Wade an American gangster. Oh, yeah? Couldn't cut it at NC State, and he bailed at the earliest convenience because he did not want that smoke. That is the reason why. This is why he had all these viral videos throughout the year of going nuts in press conferences, because this is the first time that he was in a place where people were keeping score, where he was getting pressed and being asked real questions rather than going to a place where you're the only show in town and 90% of the media that covers you are Homer media. But going back to the optics here, these rumors are not new. Here was Will Wade 2 weeks ago at the ACC tournament in Charlotte when asked about the LSU rumors.
No, is the job open there? Huh? No? So why would, I'm not, listen, let me be very clear. I'm excited at NC State. I was hired at NC State to do a job. This wasn't going to take 1 year. I've already met with our administration about next year and some of the changes that we need to make and some of the things that we need to do to put this program where it deserves long term. So I'm not, I don't, you know, I'm not on social media. I'm not into gossip. I'm not into any of that sort of stuff. But look, we're going to win, and we're going to win big at NC State.
The guy's a snake. He knew. He absolutely knew. LSU's hiring McNeese as president, who hired him at McNeese, obviously, and then they hired the AD from McNeese to specifically run basketball. He knew. He had to have known. He's just lying. He's just lying. And he'll push back and say, well, no, you don't know if I'm lying or not. I'm not lying. I got track record, brother. You are a proven liar. Let's not forget, he paid, this is true, don't forget, he paid players before you were allowed to do so, and the way he got caught is because his girlfriend, the player's girlfriend, confessed to it, and to try to cover it up, Will Wade tried to pay off the girlfriend. That's Will Wade, everybody. Liar. And he's lying right there. So it's an awful look for Will Wade. But it's also, NC State deserves some blame in this as well. One, you hired Will Wade, a known cheater who is as shameless as they come in college basketball. You knew he'd get players there. You knew you'd have a chance to get into the NCAA tournament immediately after being bottom 3 in the ACC, and he did that. You could be a borderline top 25 team. So knowing that he could have you back up that quickly, how on earth is Will Wade's buyout only $5 million, soon to be $3 million on April 1st, just 1 year into him being on the job? Like, imagine the nightmare scenario. Imagine this happens and NC State had an amazing year. He said it was going to be a red reckoning. Oh, he was going to beat Duke and North Carolina, all these things. Finish top 3rd in the league, all of that. Imagine if he actually did that and then he was pried away. People would be much more upset with NC State. Why is his buyout that low? How come the buyout for a high major coach in the ACC after 1 year, just $5 million, soon to be $3 million on April 1st, that's less than the buyout for North Carolina's GM. And this is your head coach. How does that happen? So NC State, it's some egg on their face too for allowing this to happen. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise that it happens, though. So here are 3 things that need to happen now. Number 1, we need a good, solid nickname for the coaching trio at LSU. Lane Kiffin, Will Wade, and Kim Mulkey. You know, North Carolina has to be so happy with what's happening at NC State. Pointing and laughing at Will Wade, that's number 1. But also, a lot of people thought when Hubert was fired, hey, maybe North Carolina has the most dysfunctional athletic department in America because they got Bill Belichick as their coach and they just fired Hubert Davis. That seems to be a bit of a mess. LSU says, hold my beer. Check it out. We're going to get rid of our AD and then have the interim make a hire after paying Brian Kelly $54 million to go away. And we need the governor to get involved and approve some things and then pry Lane Kiffin away. And now do this with Will Wade, who wrecked your program before, and you're trying to, all the while you have a coach who isn't fired yet, and Mac McMahon. Will Wade's right. Is that job open? No, it wasn't until today. And let's not forget that you also have Kim Mulkey at LSU as well. We need a name for that coaching trio of Lane Kiffin, Will Wade, and Kim Mulkey. The early leader in the clubhouse we've seen so far is the Insufferables. A play off the Untouchables. Those who know. you have a better name, 310-840-4910. Text us. ESPN, you need to give us a gift. Why have an ACC-SEC challenge if not having LSU play at NC State next year? Why? If you don't schedule LSU to play at NC State, why even have it? Scrap the whole thing. Because holy hell, would that be a scene in Raleigh, North Carolina, if LSU with Will Wade returns to Raleigh next year. And here's the third thing that needs to happen. NC State, hire the guy that you should have hired a year ago. Tennessee associate head coach Justin Gainey. He's the presumed coach in waiting at a school that's competing in the Sweet 16 right now, and he's an alum at NC State. And he's from the state of North Carolina. And he spent time at NC State in the 2000s. Bring Justin Gainey home. He's under 50. He's a great coach. He loves your school. He isn't going to leave after just 1 year. That's the direction that you need to go in. Will Wade, what a coaching cycle it's been so far. This segment sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com. There's a reason they call it the Hoop State, because you have Duke right now, one of the favorites to win the national championship, and North Carolina and NC State are both in the news, and we just figured we got to give some love to the last of the four legs here in the North Carolina ACC schools. Steve Forbes is going to be our guest at the top of next hour, so we'll be visiting with him. But yes, it's time. It's been more than a half hour since we've been on. We need to talk about baseball. The story of the day today might have been the first thing that we saw. Paul Skeens, the story of opening day. An absolute train wreck at Citi Field in Flushing, New York. The shortest start of his major league career. This is the reigning NL Cy Young winner. Before that was the Rookie of the Year in the National League. He lasted just 2/3 of an inning. Prior to today, he's always pitched into the fourth. The 5 runs he allowed tied for the most he's given up in his career. And this was after Pittsburgh had jumped out to a 2-0 lead on the second at bat of the season. The Mets went on to win 11-7. The shame of it all is that Skeens should not have been the story of the day. Skeens should not have been out of this game in just 2/3 of an inning. The reason why he had to go is because O'Neal Cruz in center field made 2 of the worst plays you'll ever see a big league center fielder make, and it happened on consecutive at-bats. First, what number 1 rule of playing outfield? Make sure your first step's back before you go forward. You don't want the ball to go over your head. Someone needed to give O'Neal Cruz that lesson. And the ball goes over his head, and you get 3 runs scoring. And then you have one of those flares hit out the center. It's just a casual fly ball, and he just misreads it and then kind of alligator arms it, drops it as well. The pitch count gets run up. It's game 1. You don't want to take any chances with Paul Skeens, and he's out of the game. Pittsburgh, as a result, has to spend 6 relievers in the first game of the season. At least they're off tomorrow because MLB likes to protect opening day for home teams. So you play some on Thursday, and then you're off on Friday in case there's a rain out on Thursday. You can then have your opening day on Friday. Like the way that they work that out. This could be a bad omen, though, for the most optimism Pirate fans have had in a very long time. At least their newcomers looked the part. Brandon Lau had that 2-run homer. Ryan O'Hearn, scored 2 runs. But man, Paul Skeens, the story of the day, with the worst start of his major league career. Related to the earlier question about Cinderella, a Hall of Fame coach made the case that even if Cinderella no longer exists in college basketball, something else might have died with Cinderella that makes the sport that much better. And you'll hear that case next.
Happy MLB opening week. A fresh scorebook, a brand new season, infinite possibilities. Your team's alive. Your dream is real. Baseball's back, and we're all better for it. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Josh Graham and Linnell Willingham.
How many times do I have to tell you, old man? Linnell's not coming. Feeling very insecure right now because I feel as if it's going to be like Royal Rumble and Linnell's just going to start running in as DOA by Jay-Z plays. Steve Forbes is going to join us in 20 minutes, Wake Forest basketball coach. Are both these Sweet 16 games over? We have 2 games that are decided in the final minute to start things off, and right now, Illinois is up by 14 points, about to be 15, and Tugler's got 4 fouls, 9:56 to go. Houston playing on their home court, essentially. And Arizona's up 16 points on Arkansas with 11:38 to go. Are these games over? We'll find out over the next 15, 20 minutes or so. But let's segue to this. While the NBA struggles with urgency in its regular season and player availability as well, yes, you have the tanking issue too. The NBA's got problems. While the NBA deals with that, college basketball has experienced a real resurgence. And this season, it's not a one-off either. It's not, oh, look at all the talent this year. That's the reason why people are watching and people are caring. No. It begins with the actual basketball product. Rick Pitino was meeting with the media in D.C., and he had a comment about the quality of play in the sport that raised eyebrows among everybody in the room. Listen.
Portugal, being from Greece, Sweden, Austria, Congo, and Ghana, all this fanfare of March Madness. But it is very difficult coaching in this environment, but I'm from the other end of the spectrum. I think college basketball in the last 2 years is at the highest level of performance that I've witnessed in my 50 years. That's because the foreign influence, they no longer want to go to EuroLeague or to Eurocup. They rather go to states because they make more money. We can even rival the EuroLeague as far as pay is concerned. So I think what's on the court and the way the game is being played on the court is the best I've ever witnessed. So,
you know how you hear old heads say, oh, today's game, it's not nearly as good as it was in the 80s or in the 90s. Rick Pitino coached then, and he's saying what he's seeing now is better than what he's seen at any time. And he's outlining some of the reasons. You have international players making more playing college basketball, pros, than they would be making in the EuroLeague. Oliver Shack, who takes calls for us, 310-840-4910 if you want in, he said that he loves watching Illinois basketball play, not just because they're good, but because Brad Underwood has taught him lessons in geography because he's added players from countries he didn't know existed until watching the Illini. But it's not the only reason. Because of NIL and revenue sharing, they're not just attracting international players, but also giving key contributors on teams an option to come back to school when previously it wouldn't make any sense. If you had a shot at being drafted at all, and sometimes undrafted, you'd still go pro because there's a chance to make a living for your family that you couldn't do so legally in college basketball. You certainly can do that now. And that helps develop stars within the sport with some name recognition. While the death of Cinderella has been a popular topic this week, Pitino was at it again. See, this is what's great about Pitino. He speaks his mind. If he disagrees with you, he'll let you know. If he doesn't like your premise, he'll give you a no answer. But then he's got takes, and he's not afraid to unfurl them. Pitino argues that it's less important that Cinderella is alive or not versus something else within the sport dying that he claims is dead and is good for college basketball.
The Blue Bloods no longer control basketball any longer. There's no difference between Kentucky, North Carolina, than Illinois or St. John's. There's no difference anymore. Mississippi, when they get it going, it's all going to be the same. You're going to see 40 to 50 teams, all the same. So there's no such a thing as a blue blood anymore. There's no difference between North Carolina State and somebody else. Everybody's the same.
Yeah, tell Will Wade that. NC State was quite different than LSU. To him, it would seem. But a couple of things. While it's true that the portal and rev share have flattened the disparity between the top of the sport and the next couple of tiers, and that's a good thing, the Blue Bloods still have more resources than other schools. And thus, the Blue Bloods are still every bit alive. Kansas, North Carolina, Duke. These are schools that prioritize basketball that also have football there. Because what he's not acknowledging is, in the revenue sharing era, most of the high major schools play football. You're having to share that money and distribute it, and a lot of schools don't distribute the money for basketball that maybe they should in order to stay competitive. So the Blue Bloods that care about basketball, Kentucky that had a roster reportedly more than $20 million, resources are still the name of the game. Revenue is still the name of the game. And those schools are still putting forth more. So don't know if we completely agree with the premise that Blue Bloods are dead. By the way, this is totally different than last year's narrative. Remember last year, only 4 teams can win it. This year, there's probably twice that number that can win the national championship. And that, to Rick Pitino's point, is a very good thing. The resurgence in college basketball is real. The ratings seem to match what Pitino's eyes and words are telling him and saying. Last week was the best first-round ratings the NCAA tournament has ever had. And that'll probably continue with the types of matchups we're getting in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. Every college basketball game seems like it matters more than every NBA regular season game. At least among high majors, because you only got 31 of them. And if they're played on campus, it probably has a more engaged crowd. See, the NBA, you got to pipe in the music in between possessions, because if you don't, it just sounds like you're sitting in a library. College basketball, you have those atmospheres, you have the life of the college campus, and you have 31 games where things are compressed. You never have guys taking nights off or resting. Player availability, not an issue. Urgency. You really have it in college basketball. And all of this boils down to college is in a really good spot. College basketball is. Steve Forbes is going to be our guest in 10 minutes. He's Wake Forest's basketball coach. And there are a few reasons that Steve's going to be joining the show. Number one, he had Michigan dead to rights in non-conference. Was up 7 on them with about 5 minutes to go. Lost by 1 in overtime. Played them in Detroit. Knows Duke pretty well in the ACC. We'll get his thoughts on the Blue Devils. You have some news in his backyard with Will Wade and Hubert Davis. We'll see what he thinks about all that. But also, this might be of most importance. Steve Forbes might be responsible for this show's existence, or at least yours truly being on it. This is a true story. I accepted the job to work here on Westwood One Sports Night. A press release is about to go out on Thursday back in December to announce the full lineup and what we have now at Westwood One Sports that's so exciting. But then Wake Forest had a basketball game the night before, and this is what happened during the press conference featuring Steve Forbes.
Josh Graham's show, I know you've been a big part of that. He's 7.5 years, and you comment on Josh. You've outlasted Josh.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. I think he does an awesome job. You know, I helped him with it. You know, I did talk to Westwood One. I don't remember the guy's name, but I was glad to be able to help. I don't have any way of saying I helped, got him the job, but.
Armin was big upset. It's like, what, you don't even remember my name? Huh? What's going on there? This Denton Day, is Steve Forbes taking credit for getting me the job here at Westwood One? Is that what you heard there?
I don't know if he's taking credit. I think he is the LeBron to your D-Wade or D-Wade to your LeBron. He lobbed it, and then you caught it and finished. You know what I mean? It's great teamwork.
Yeah. He was a reference. And that, I thought, would be a different kind of reference than the folks at Westwood One are used to receiving. Is that an ACC basketball coach listed as the reference here? Steve said, oh, yeah. It was after a game I was telling him about this thing. He's like, oh, yeah, man, just write my name down. I'll talk to whoever. Just sitting in the coach's office after a game. All right. Didn't think there was a chance in the world that they would actually call him. And they did. And Steve Forbes is breaking the news. So I then have to text my now bosses before I even start on the job. You know that announcement you're about to send out tomorrow? And I send them the clip. And they thought it was the funniest thing ever. Well, that's a first. That's a first. Having an announcement about one of our talent acquisitions. That news being broken by an ACC basketball coach. A D1 coach. It's a real thing that happened there. One quick score update before we get to Steve Forbes. Illinois 50, Houston 38, 6 minutes to go in that one. Arizona's up 22 on Arkansas, coasting in the Sweet 16. Steve Forbes, he shares his scouting report, telling us how he gave Michigan problems. Same thing for Duke, who he faced in the ACC. Plus, we'll get his reaction to the Hubert Davis and Will Wade news as well. Steve Forbes joins us next.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
When I was hired here at Westwood One Sports to do this show, there was a press release set to go out Thursday afternoon to make that known to the world. However, before that announcement could go out, our next guest was asked in a press conference about my departure from another show and broke the news before that press release was able to go out. My bosses then texted me, well, that was a first, because the man who broke that news is an ACC head basketball coach. It is Wake Forest coach Steve Forbes who joins us. You're here to be our March Madness analyst tonight. But before we get to that, is it true that you go around taking credit for getting me this job?
Oh, 1,000%. First of all, I spent quality time in Hobby Lobby talking to your cohorts about your abilities to do this job that you got. And so I sang your praises or in Hobby Lobby for probably 20 or 30 minutes right before Christmas. And that's like full bore combat, trying to get in around those aisles with people trying to get their garland. And then, yes, I broke it. Hot takes, instant flash news. Somebody asked me in the press conference, I don't remember what game, and I spilled the beans. But I've done it before. I told you I did it to Nurse when he went from RGV to the Raptors. He called and told me, and I put it on Facebook, and he called me back and said, it's not going to be announced for like 3 weeks. What are you doing? I'm like, sorry. So,
you broke the news. You broke the news that Nick Nurse was going to be the coach at the Raptors.
The assistant. He was coaching in the G League at RGV, Rio Grande Valley, and he comes to terms with them and calls me. He's all excited, and so I just go ahead and put it on Facebook. Well, about 2 hours later, he goes, "What are you doing?"
Whatever happened to that Nick Nurse guy? Steve Forbes is with us here. Getting to the NCAA tournament. The closest Michigan came to losing a non-conference game was its 1-point overtime win against your Demon Deacons. In fact, you guys led that game in Detroit, their backyard, by 7 with less than 5 to go. What about your scouting report? Do you remember working against that lineup? And were you thinking at that time this might be a number 1 national seed?
Well, thanks for reminding me of that, Josh, that we had the lead a couple times there. I was not overwhelmed, but impressed with their physical size when they came out for tip. I mean, they had Mara, Johnson, and they had Lenenberg at the 3. And I had known Yaxel Lenenberg. One of my best friends, Ryan Cross, signed him at UAB, coached him. Just got the head job at ULM today. Shout out to Ryan Cross. And then, Roddy Gale, he's got size. Elliot Cadeau played at Carolina, starter at Carolina, fast. We'd seen him. Very physically, Trey McKinney, very physically imposing basketball team that had really good skill, right? And what happened with Lenenberg, I didn't know I wasn't sure could happen. Could he make the conversion from a post player to a perimeter player? And they played him in the perimeter that night. And that was the second game of the year. And I remember he made his first 3. And I remember looking at my staff going, outstanding. That's awesome. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, because he'll keep shooting them. I mean, I don't want him around that basket. But the reality of it is, and I don't know his numbers, but he obviously made the transition to the perimeter while still playing some closer to the basket because he's an absolute beast around the basket, a beast on the glass. Mara is a shot. He just changes so many shots. He's like a solar eclipse out there. Marez Johnson has his high energy, hard charging, power forward. They got a really good team. We caught them at a good time, right? Second game of the year in Detroit. Really, truthfully, had the ball to win it in regulation, had the ball to win it in overtime, didn't get it done.
Then there's Duke. Being in the ACC, you obviously have familiarity with them. Last year, you compared Cooper Flagg as a talent to facing Kevin Durant when he was in college at Texas. Statistically, though, this is the part that's nuts. Cam Boozer's been even better than Cooper Flagg was last year on paper. How do you best capture what it's like preparing to face Cam?
Yeah, that's the depressing part about being a coach in the ACC is you have to coach against Cooper Flagg. And now you think you survived that, and all of a sudden here comes Cam Boozer. I asked their dad on the set after we beat Virginia Tech in the AC tournament if he had any more kids. Wouldn't mind having one. He's so physically imposing. I can't tell you you can't really feel how big he is until you see him in person. And I'm talking about not just how tall he is, how physically mature that he is, and how he loves to play through contact. A lot of guys, especially his age, struggle playing through contact or don't like contact. He embraces contact, and he's a great finisher around the basket. He's like this guy used to play out Reggie Evans a long time ago, played JUCO ball at Coffeyville. He'd always lead with the ball in his arms and you foul him every time. You just couldn't help but reach in the cookie jar. And that's how Cam is. He turns with that ball, and he's so dang strong with it, you foul him. And he's getting to the line all the time. He can finish around the basket, and he can make threes. But to me, the key is Nagando because he's such a great passer. Their offense is so much different when Patrick has the ball at the top of the key and they're setting those wide flares or chest screens and pin downs, and he's playing point guard out there at 7, whatever he is, 6'10", 6'11". He changes the whole thing for them. They missed him, in my opinion, in the tournament. The offense, and then he's just an incredible passer and finisher, and he's got great hands. You saw the game. They blew the game open against TCU because they basically were just playing buddy ball together, passing the ball to each other, making great passes and finishes. And so they do miss Caleb Foster. I still believe that. But Boozer's brother, Caden, has done a really good job of stepping in there and playing for him. But, I think this – and we played a really hard schedule. I've told people that playing Duke and playing Michigan, that's different than the rest of the teams that we've played on our schedule. They're just a little bit different because of that physicality and imposing size.
See, they get St. John's And since you are a coach, I'll pose this to you. I tell everyone that every college basketball coach's favorite college basketball coach is Rick Pitino in terms of his ability to coach a game, like a guy that just masters the X's and O's of it. Is that the game from like a fan of the sport, you're most excited to watch in the Sweet 16?
No, I'm from Iowa. I'm watching Farmageddon. It's Nebraska, Iowa. No. It's the Corn State against the Corn Huskers. No.
Sure. Okay.
No, I'm watching. That's called Farmageddon.
Sorry. Forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on. Now, I coached against Coach Pitino when he was at Louisville in the Sweet 16 when I was at Tennessee in 08. They're hard to play. I haven't watched them play this year. I'm sorry. But I don't think he's probably changed a whole heck of a lot. Like, defensively, they're really hard to score on because he switches defenses. And he used to play this zone. He didn't know if it was man or zone. He couldn't tell what the hell he was doing. They're just playing really hard in it, and they're not normal rotations. And, he always finds a way to score. He gets the ball in his best player's hands. I personally haven't watched them play as much, or any this year, to be quite frank with you. But you can't bet against him. I mean, he's one of the best coaches in the history of the game by far, and still doing individual workouts at his age, 3 or 4 a day, 4 guys at a time. He's got that much energy, but it'll be a heck of a game, I'm sure. I still think Duke wears you down. Like TCU, they were in there, man, and Jamie's team was playing well. They had a lot of confidence, and then all of a sudden Duke said, "Nuh-uh," and they just ran away with it, and watching Duke beat Michigan State at Michigan State, watching Duke win against Michigan in the Garden, I wouldn't bet against them.
Steve Forbes is with us, Wake Forest basketball coach. 2 questions I'd be remiss to not ask you about. Hubert Davis out at North Carolina. Will Wade announced today he's leaving NC State to return to LSU. Not only are these schools in your league, they're in your state. How surprised? Yeah, how surprised are you to see this level of turnover? Obviously, for different reasons.
It's different for me, right? Because I have different relationships with these people as their peer and a coach in their league, right? And being really close down the road. I talked to Will yesterday on the phone and didn't even bring it up. And just we were talking about something else, and I didn't bring it up because I didn't figure it was in my business. And he didn't choose to bring it up, so we moved on to what we needed to talk about. I feel the same way. I think with Hubert, I just really like him, and somebody tweeted something yesterday that was completely unprofessional about him and the league, and actually I sent it to the league office because I was just disgusted.
You're talking about Jeff Goodman sharing an anonymous quote from an ACC coach.
I happened to see it, and I just thought it was weak.
Saying that they're upset that Hubert wasn't in the league.
I mean, if you're going to say that,
put
your name on it. That's weak. Because he doesn't deserve that, right? Not that anybody does, but he don't. Loved Carolina. Teams played hard, played fast. God, rebounded. Went to the national championship, as you know. Actually, after we beat them pretty significantly here that year, they took off. They took off and went to the national championship right around the end of January. If you go back and look, I think what was his name? Dawson Garcia left the team, and Brady Manning played all the minutes. Caleb Love went to the 2. I think RJ went to the 1, and they went to the national championship and up 15 to win it. I don't like it. I don't. I understand what the nature of the business. I understand the nature of these jobs, especially a place like that has really high expectations. There's every fan base is mad this time of year, right? There's only, if you lose, even if we didn't make the tournament, so everybody's mad. You make the tournament, lose in the first round, everybody's mad. You lose the second round, everybody's mad. It's hard to keep feeding the monster. I don't like it. I like Hubert. I think he's I just, he's good for our business, good for kids. Really good role model. I'm pretty sure his players probably really liked him. Will, that's his personal decision. I'm not getting into that. That's something that obviously he felt that was best for him, is to make that move.
You mentioned how fans can be upset. You made it clear that you were disappointed with this past season at Wake Forest. You have this ability to disarm people when you see them up close, which is different than obviously like what separates you when you're online and people are firing off and saying things. What is your message to fans you come across who are discouraged about where things are now that you head into the stage where you can make it better with roster building coming up?
Well, first of all, I don't know any fans that ever say that to my face. Let's just be honest. Okay. That doesn't happen. And so, but if they did, I would say, first of all, I fully understand your frustration. I'm as frustrated as anybody or more, and my staff and my players. And, we're doing one thing I can tell you that, I can promise you as being the head coach here since I got the job, there's never a wasted day here with me or my staff is trying to improve the program the best that we can with what we have. Okay. And so we are hard at it. And yes, we understand the apex of this deal is to make the tournament. I'm not even going to, let's don't discuss the past. Okay. About, well, he should have or shouldn't have been in the tournament. I don't know. I don't care now. What I do care about is the future. And so we're having team meetings right now, individual meetings with the players, figuring out it's always retention before recruiting, right? We signed two twins early, top 100, Gavin and Gallagher Proceed, really good players, 6'11", 6'10". We'll try to retain some of our players. I got an NBA potential first rounder in Zucaris, who had the second best season in history of Wake Forest basketball this year in scoring, averaged 21, 22 points a game, probably the most improved player in the country, from freshman to sophomore year. So we got a lot of positives. We got to go out and fill the roster out, which everybody's trying to do. We got to do retention first.
Steve Forbes, thank you so much for doing this and for getting me this job.
Oh, well, I didn't get you the job, Josh. Your undeniable talent did that. It's just more. I'm just the announcer. I'm the guy that breaking news for Westwood One. Steve Forbes in 3, 2, 1. Steve Forbes breaking news. Josh Graham has been hired by Westwood One.
You're the best. Thanks again. Yeah, there he goes. Steve Forbes joining us here on Westwood One Sports. Great when you can welcome in a high major coach reacting to a lot of the action we're seeing. An Iowa man joining us tonight that Iowa advances to the Elite Eight for the first time in 39 years. The two late Sweet 16 games are going final, and in one instance, the losing team is easily the story. We'll recap them both, plus get to your thoughts on them. 310-840-4910. You can call us and text us. Next on Westwood One Sports Night.
The landscape of the NFL has shifted massively this month. And as we head towards the draft, what will happen next? The NFL never sleeps, and neither do we. On your home for the NFL, Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
The first two games of the night in the Sweet 16, absolute thrillers. The latter two, not so much. Who should feel more embarrassed right now? Arkansas or Houston? 310-840-4910. You could text us. You can call us. Houston, Illinois is the game that just went final. There are a few minutes left in Arizona, Arkansas, so that can wait just a few minutes. Houston is the story from this game against Illinois. Illinois wins the game. Houston is the story. The weakness of this Illini team all year long has been their defense. That's what prevents people, experts, from wanting to pick this team to go as far as they've advanced right now to the Elite Eight. They aren't top 50 in opposing points allowed per game. They rank 55. They're not even top 30 in opposing field goal percentage. They're an average defensive team according to the advanced metrics, at least for a team that's supposed to be a contender. This is a team that in late February blew a 20-point lead against UCLA and allowed 95. They've allowed 90 points 4 different times this year. Despite this, Houston shot 27% in the first half. Houston shot 23% from 3 in the first half. It didn't get much better in the second. They lose this basketball game 65-55. Houston finishes up 34% from the field, 28% from 3. This is the part that would really fire you up if you're Kelvin Sampson, though. Houston is known for its toughness. This is a team that has prided itself in being able to shove you into a locker and lock the door in recent seasons. You get to the free throw line for 2 attempts tonight. 2 free throw attempts. The entire game from this tough Houston team. Not able to get to the rack. They just see a big Illinois team that doesn't play a lot of defense, and you're not able to get to the line against them? And again, this wouldn't be the story if not for how perfectly set up this was for the Houston Cougars. They're the 2 seed in the South region. The number 1 seed in their bracket lost. Last weekend, Florida upset by Iowa. Iowa wins in Farmageddon, which means you don't get the 1 seed, you don't get the 4 seed in the Elite Eight. If you won tonight, you would have drawn the 9 seed for a trip to the Final Four. And where is this regional? Houston, Texas. They're playing in their home city. It could not have been better set up for you. And you blow it. And because of this, it might be the end of Kelvin Sampson's career. He's 70 years old. It seems like he's soon going to pass off the program onto his son, who's an assistant at Houston. A lot like what Bruce Pearl did last season at Auburn. He had his shot the last 2 seasons. He had a monster, one of the 4 teams that could win the national championship a year ago. And you get to the championship game. You rally against Duke. With that toughness, you had more mental toughness to close that game than the Cooper Flagg, Con Knippel Duke team from a year ago. You get to the championship, you're not able to finish the job. This year, you got Emmanuel Sharp back. You got Tugler back. You got Uzan back. And you have a top 5 NBA draft pick at point guard. And you can't even get there when the path is set for you in Houston without a 1 seed in your way. With respect to Illinois, Houston is the story of this game. The fact that they got to the line for 2 attempts, not blaming officiating. That's not what we're doing here. Blaming Houston. Your lack of toughness when that's supposed to be your identity. Not scoring when you're facing a team that struggled defensively for most of the year. Who boy is this bad for Kelvin Sampson? And it might be the end of his career. We shall see. Here's how the final seconds of this one sounded from Houston, Texas, courtesy of our teammates at Westwood One Sports.
Kelvin Sampson's going to call off the dogs, and the final seconds are going to tick off the clock here in Houston. The Fighting Illini have done it. They have knocked off the Cougars on their own home turf here in Houston. Illinois marching on to the Elite Eight. They have defeated the Cougars 65-55 and move on for a Saturday night Elite Eight date with the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Denton Day. Knew we'd probably be hearing from some Illinois fans. We're big in Chicago. Shout-outs to our friends at The Score. B. Daly writes in. Illinois. This is the story of this game, you clown. Make me a bicycle, clown. Show some respect. Own it. Been saying Illinois to the Final Four for weeks. Be a man for once. Give respect where it's due. Big night for the Big Ten. Good God. You got 3 teams. You've gone 3 for 3 tonight. Well, 3 of 4 because you had the head-to-head between Nebraska and Iowa. Not faulting them for that. Denton Day, it's a big day for the Big Ten. Are you willing to add? I refuse to add teams that we wrote off on my list. But how much respect are you willing to give Illinois since I just made it all about Houston?
I'm willing to give them a good amount of respect. I think Wagler's awesome. You know, he didn't play the greatest game because no one is going to be like super duper awesome against Houston, but he's a really, really good player. And guards win in March. They got guards. Brad Underwood's put together a hell of a team this year. So I think it's natural. I think you can add teams to the list. I think that's fair. You could substitute, you know, make some additions.
Because it ended up we were at 6 teams that could win it all at the end. And those 6 teams were Duke, Michigan. We wrote off UConn. That was the last team we wrote off. It was Duke, Michigan, Iowa State, Florida, Houston, and there's one that we're forgetting. That's probably a big team that we're not thinking of. Who might that be?
Who might that be? Duke?
The 4
Arizona,
number 1 seeds.
Yeah, Michigan.
Houston and Iowa State. No, we got it.
Yeah, Iowa State.
The 4 number 1 seeds, Houston and Iowa State.
So you were kind of right on the Iowa State one. You just put an extra letter there, or extra 2 letters. If you just dropped the state, you know, you were halfway right there.
Yeah, so we're at Iowa or Iowa State. They still can win it. Michigan, Arizona, Duke. Those are the teams. I'm still staying firm on that.
I would say
that
think
one of
of
those
it
teams
as
are going to win the title.
This is like your opportunity to have like an Old Testament style sacrifice. You know, you sacrifice Florida and Houston to potentially gain Illinois onto the list. You know, it's a 2 for 1. You lose 2, but you gain 1. Or anyone else doesn't have to be Illinois. But I know you're not going to do this with Purdue. And I wouldn't tell you to do it with Purdue, but Braden Smith is him. You know, does he look like he sells monsters to middle schoolers? Occasionally, yes,
yeah,
it does. But he can hoop.
Is that a Role Models reference? The movie? From
no, that's just I went to high school with a bunch of dudes that would sell Monster in the hallway.
Ah, got it. Understood.
It's my kind of audience.
How about we talk Arizona, Arkansas just went final. Arizona 109, Arkansas 88. Arizona, for the first time in this tournament, reminding everybody, you know, those that parachute on college basketball only when the NCAA tournament starts, reminding the casuals, reminding everybody who the best team in the country is. It's this team from Tucson. You look at the numbers. They shot 64% from the field. Now, how much of that is to do with Arkansas? Nobody on that team really playing defense at all year long. Probably a lot. But it's the physicality that really impresses you. They stared Trevin Brazil and Malik Ewan down and said, we're going to body you inside. They shot 62% from 3, but they only attempted 8 threes. They were like, no, we're going to go into the paint and punch you in the face. And they attempted 39 free throws in this game. 109 88, an absolute bludgeoning. This might be the Arizona Invitational after all. Charles Barkley may have had it right way back in January when he said that. This Arizona team, it's them and it's Duke who have only lost 2 games this season. Those are the two. And when you look at the schedules that those 2 teams have played, Rick Pitino said about Duke, never seen a team schedule as difficultly as the Blue Devils did this year. Arizona opened up with the champs, beat them in Florida, or that was in Vegas, they beat Florida. They went to Birmingham and beat Alabama. They went to Storrs, Connecticut, beat UConn. Now, Terrace Reed didn't play in the game, but still, going into UConn and winning the game, this team checks all the boxes. They have the depth. They have the right coach. They have the right resume. There is no hole that you can poke through the Arizona Wildcats. And tonight was simply them reminding the nation who the best team in the country is. And it is the Wildcats. 310-840-4910. If you want in. A question that we're asking, is Iowa Cinderella? Is Iowa a Cinderella in this tournament? Can we call them that? 310-840-4910. Call us, text us. We'll share our thoughts, recap that game next on Westwood One Sports Night.
It's MLB opening week. The greatest reset button in sports. The grass is cut, the chalk is down, and the ballpark sounds like summer again. Welcome back, baseball. We missed you. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
With you until 3 a.m. Eastern time on Westwood One Sports. So much to get into. Opening day in Major League Baseball. Shout out to Trevor Rogers. Throwing 7 scoreless for the Orioles. They win the game. Ryan Helsley throwing gas to get the save. And then we have the Sweet 16 underway tonight, already delivering. Couple of games just went final. Arizona 109, Arkansas 88. Do we have the call, courtesy of our teammates at Westwood One Sports, for that one that just ended? Houston, oh my goodness. They lose in Houston, Texas to Illinois. And really, the final score, a lot closer than what the game was. That's not good for the Houston Cougars, even as Illinois advances. Here's how the finish from just a few moments ago sounded in San Jose, with Arizona winning it against Arkansas.
Karchenkov will bring the dribble up the court. John Calipari makes his way to Tommy Lloyd. The two coaches will meet and shake hands. Still 17 seconds to go. Ivan Karchenkov holding the dribble, now exchanging high fives with his teammates. Arizona fans on their feet. Down to 7 seconds to go. The Wildcats will dribble it out. And for the first time since 2015, the Arizona Wildcats are back in the Elite Eight. Arizona 109, Arkansas 88. It'll be Arizona against Purdue, the top 2 seeds in the West, with a trip to the Final Four on the line here on Saturday.
Ryan Ratke on the call. We'll get to Purdue in just a bit. But here's a question. Who needs Cinderella when you have Farmageddon? Is this heaven? No, it's Iowa advancing to the Elite Eight. This was incredible to watch. It's what makes this tournament special. These schools are rivals. They know each other well. Both schools are underdogs. As a 9 seed, Iowa is the lowest seeded Big Ten school to ever make an Elite Eight. The Hawkeyes, they're headed to their first Elite Eight for the first time in 39 years. Nebraska, meanwhile, they're coming off the first 2 NCAA tournament wins they've ever earned. Prior to this March, they were the only high major team that had never won a tournament game before. So these are really underdogs playing each other. And as much as the winner should be the story, Nebraska completely ran out of gas in unfortunate fashion. The Huskers, they were in control of this game throughout. Big Red, they led by as many as 10. Iowa didn't lead this game until 2:10 left to go. But nothing was worse than what happened in the final minute here. Iowa's up 3 with 45 seconds to go. So you're still in a position following a made 3 cutting it to 71-68 where you're trying to defend without fouling. But then out of the inbounds play on the baseline, you not only lose Alvaro Figueres and what ended up being an and-one layup to essentially put this game away, it turns out the reason they lost him, and Stan Van Gundy was all over this on the broadcast, is because you only had 4 players on the court at the time of the inbounds feed. That's simply unacceptable. Denton Day, again, this game just ended a few hours ago. See if Fred Hoiberg has an explanation somewhere. Online, somebody had to ask him why there were only 4 players on the court when that ball was inbounded. Now, give credit where it's due, just like in the Florida game. Credit to Iowa for capitalizing on a defensive mistake in the final minute. Let's not forget, inexplicably up to Florida, Todd Golden decided to press Bennett Sturtz, who broke it easily and found that Fulgaris fella again. Might want to keep an eye on him, who hit the corner 3 to win that game and eliminate Florida. But still, hard to really justify that. Fulgaris and Tate Sage off the bench combined for 35 for Iowa. Bennett Sturtz had 20 to lead the way. And yes, Iowa qualifies as Cinderella now. Iowa qualifies. Oh, they're in the Big Ten. Ben McCollum is in his first year taking over for Fran McCaffrey, who seemingly was the coach at Iowa forever. It's been 3 years since this program was in the tournament altogether, and Iowa is in the Elite Eight for the first time in 39 years. This Iowa team, this is a 9 seed. Remember when we were told that this was going to be all chalk? Oh, man, upsets don't happen anymore. You had 4 1 seeds go last year, and it's going to be all chalk. Iowa's in the Elite Eight. Iowa's a win away from going to Indianapolis. And now they go up against Illinois. So congratulations to the Big Ten. You're guaranteed to have a Final Four team in Indianapolis. It's going to be either Iowa or Illinois winning that game to advance. But we do pose the question yet again, and it's the same question that's been posed on social media at Josh Graham Show, is where you can follow us, follow me specifically, asking, is Cinderella, or does Iowa qualify as Cinderella? 75% of those voting thus far say, yeah, they are. But what do you say? 310-840-4910. The master of the text line is Denton Day, taking your text, and Oliver Shack's taking your calls at 310-840-4910. I'm being told Fred Hoiberg was asked about this tonight, and we have his reaction right now to only having 4 players out on defense, leading to a and one basket that essentially put the game away.
For Rink, about 58 seconds left. They had that deep ball to Alvaro for the bucket. I think there were 4 players on the court. Can you say what happened?
I'll address that one, Myron. Put that one on me. It was a miscommunication, and I'm the head coach. Put that one on me.
The 4 men on the court on that final inbound. There's some confusion online about if that's the rules. You're supposed to have 5 guys on the court. Were the officials supposed to hold the ball before the ball was put
That's
in play?
a good question, Rob, and I've never been in a situation like that. I know they always count to make sure there's not 6. I don't know the rule on that with 4. But, yeah, I mean, again, it was a miscommunication, and, unfortunately it happened. But, that, as far as the rule, I've never been a part of anything like that. So.
No, that's awful. The right answer that you could have given there, in addition to saying it's on me, is saying, my team was out on the floor. That's my team. Coach, you need one more. Nope. My team is out on the floor. 40-year anniversary of Hoosiers. Is Iowa a Cinderella? 310-840-4910. We'll get to Purdue in just a bit. Or as our guy Carter in the Bronx calls them, Purdue. Love this. Nah, dog. KRB GG boy writes in, March Madness is over for me. Hornets madness. That's the real story. They got to get to the playoffs. Pat Boyle all in on the Charlotte Hornets as well. Charles Barkley all in on the Charlotte Hornets. Why am I not feeling it? They're only an hour, 15 minutes down the road. I've had to watch that basketball team for the better part pretty much my entire life, certainly covering it for the last 10 years. Don't understand why I don't feel the same enthusiasm. But shout out to the Charlotte Hornets. 10th straight sellouts at the Spectrum Center in Uptown Charlotte. The Charlotte Hornets. Maybe after March Madness ends, that's when we'll get more fired up. But for that guy, apparently March Madness is already over. In baseball, here's a story that's worth monitoring. Tarik Skubal's pursuit of history beginning today on opening day. He is looking for his 3rd straight Cy Young Award. The Detroit Southpaw. Only 2 pitchers have ever done it in the past. 2 pitchers ever have ever won 3 straight Cy Youngs. And in fact, Greg Maddux and Randy Johnson won it 4 straight times. Both those guys. The only guys to win it 3 straight times, and they each won it 4 straight times. This year marks the 125-year anniversary of the American League's creation. Greg Maddux and Randy Johnson won all those Cy Youngs in the National League, which means if Tarik Skubal were to figure out a way to win the Cy Young this year, he'd be the first pitcher ever to win 3 straight Cy Youngs in the American League. It's never happened. The 125-year history of the league. He opened the season with a solid day in the office. On just 74 pitches, he tossed 6 innings, 1 run off 3 hits, 6 Ks. The Tigers beat the Padres 8-2. The AL Central. Did anybody else in the AL Central win today? Know that we have a late one with the Seattle Mariners. See if that wrapped up yet. Seattle, they're in the bottom of the 9th. Cleveland up 6-4. So, yeah, it looks like one team in the AL Central is going to win today because the Chicago Cubs, well, that's the NL Central. The other AL Central teams that were in action today, not winners. We'll see what happens in the bottom of the night here. It looks like that the Cleveland Guardians have this one figured out. But going back to Skubal, the Tigers, they're going to have to decide if it's wise to move off of him later this year. Remember, they didn't agree to a long-term extension this offseason. In fact, the Tigers, they lost an arbitration case with Tarik that was $13 million more than what they were arguing Skubal should have been paid. Like, I think they were saying Skubal should have been paid $19 million, while the Skubal camp said he was worth $32 million a year. And when it comes to arbitration cases, there's no negotiating to the middle. It's either this side gets this amount or that side gets another amount. And they sided with Skubal, pretty expensive there. He's due to be a free agent after this season, so we'll see where he ends up by season's end, whether or not the Tigers want to take a risk of pitching him out throughout the year and trying to figure out something after the season ends and risk potentially losing him without getting anything back in exchange. Tarek Skubal starting things off. Love opening day in Major League Baseball. How about your Washington Nationals, D-Day? Handing it to the Chicago Cubs? Yeah.
162-0. Here we come.
The teams from the DMV getting it done today. Oh, wait, Baltimore
The one
doesn't
singular team from the DMV got it done today, yes.
Make sure, by the way, if you haven't already, you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. It's where you can watch the show in addition to listening to it. Steve Forbes, Wake Forest basketball coach, has joined us tonight. He nearly beat Michigan head-to-head, faced Duke, gave us some scouting reports on both those teams, reacting to the Hubert Davis and Will Wade news of the day that's happening in his backyard. You can find that conversation on our YouTube channel. It's where you can watch and comment with us, as we've mentioned some of those comments during the segment. Westwood One Sports Night, also our podcast feed. Be sure to subscribe to that on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. And if you've already done so, high marks to you. Appreciate it. Coming up, a massive win for fat people having sex, which on this body positive program, we acknowledge and we celebrate. Keep it here on Westwood One Sports Night.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
Scott Van Pelt, like us, is known for being on late. One time, he likened the style of Big Ten basketball to fat people having sex. That's what the style of Big Ten basketball is. Well, this being the body-positive program that it is, we celebrate those types of activities of all sizes. And it also is necessary for us to celebrate Big Ten basketball at the moment. You did it, Big Ten. You're winning in the month of March. There have been 4 games tonight. 3 Big Ten teams have advanced to the Elite Eight. And the only reason maybe that they didn't get 4 teams advancing is because 2 Big Ten teams faced each other, Nebraska, Iowa, and Farmageddon. But just like it might be time for us to start taking the Big Ten more seriously than we're doing at the moment, or we have all year, begrudgingly, it's also time for us to start taking Purdue serious again. The Boilers have overcome the odds to find their best game at the absolute ideal time. Going into the postseason, Purdue, they were a write-off. Because of the way that they were playing, at least as title contenders, they had lost 3 out of 4 to close the regular season, 4 out of 6 as well if you want to expand it even further. But despite this, they rolled in the Big Ten tournament. They got on a roll, went to the title game, handed Michigan just its 3rd loss of the year to win that Big Ten title, and now they've won 7 straight games, all in postseason. They did so today without Braden Smith playing his best. He was under 50% shooting. Purdue overcame 29 being put up by Trayvon Mark, who was great again for Texas. Game tied in the final 15 seconds. And you knew the basketball was going to be in Braden Smith's hands. He missed what would have been the game-winning shot. But fortunately, he got a little help from his friends. This is how the finish sounded from San Jose, courtesy of our teammates here at Westwood One Sports.
No fouls to give for Texas. They get it into Smith. The clock starts. Smith into the front court. 8 seconds left. Has it out between the circles. Smith working against Weaver. Dribbles right. Puts up a runner right of the lane. Banks it off. Tip by Kaufman. Red is good. 0.7 to go. 79-77 Purdue. Inbound right side Pope. Three-quarter court at the horn is no good. And Purdue wins for the second time in 3 years. The Boilermakers will go to the Elite Eight. Trey Kaufman ran with the tip in, and Purdue wins 79-77, and the Boilermakers run continues.
Ryan Radke on the call from San Jose. Let's not forget that this Purdue team began the season as the preseason #1 team. They have the best point guard in the country, one of the best college point guards ever, Braden Smith. He broke the career assist record earlier this month, and we all know the expression, guards win in March. They're a handful, and they have a ton of guys on their team who have tons of experience in March. Fletcher Lawyer, another one that comes to mind. This is the third straight year that Purdue has advanced to the second weekend, and now they're one win away from making their second Final Four in 3 seasons. How much respect should we put on the Big Ten? In fact, let's ask the question. What is the best conference in college basketball? 310-840-4910. You could call us or text us. The SEC has the reigning champ coming off the best season we ever saw a conference have last year. The ACC has the best history. Historically, if you want to go off conference supremacy, it's the ACC. The Big 12, before everybody started getting hurt, looking at you, JT Toppin, looking at you, Richie Saunders, looking at you, Joshua Jefferson with Iowa State. They seemed like they were the squad, but then again, Houston just went down tonight at the hands of the Big Ten. Or is it Big Ten basketball? You got 3 of the 8 in the Elite Eight. And Michigan and Michigan State are still left to play. Because of that tourney success, there's more reason to respect how tested Purdue has been and how prepared they are. There's more reason to respect that. However, in order to call yourself the best conference in college basketball, you have to win it all at some point. Right? It can't just be you get more bids than everybody else. It can't just be, well, we advanced to the Elite Eight. You got to win it all in order to call yourself the best conference in college basketball. Michigan State was the last team to win a national championship from the Big Ten. And it was in the year 2000. It's been more than a quarter century since the last time the Big Ten won a title. None of the players competing in this tournament were alive the last time the Big Ten Conference won a national championship. So, can we call the Big Ten the best conference? And you can make the case with 3 of the 8 in the Elite Eight. 3 of the 8 in the Elite Eight. And potentially 2 more to add. But man, it's been 26 years since they've cut down nets at the end. 310-840-4910. Call us, text us there. This segment presented by Robinhood. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Learn more and get started today with Robinhood at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. In Major League Baseball opening day, there is a team that everybody tries to ignore, regardless of how well they do, but time and time again, they refuse to be ignored, and that is the Milwaukee Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers, this is a team that finished with the best record in Major League Baseball last year. Not just in the National League, all of baseball, best record. 97 wins. 4 more than the Dodgers had. Now, the Dodgers eventually surpassed the Brew Crew in the NLCS, won their second consecutive World Series. Despite having the best record, though, Last year, nobody's talking about them in the NL Central. You look at betting odds, everybody's pointing to the Chicago Cubs being the best team instead of Milwaukee. But here we are on opening day, and the Brewers reminded all of us they still have Jacob Mizorowski. This second-year fireballer struck out 11 batters in 5 innings. Now, it's the Chicago White Sox that they were facing, but 1 run off 2 hits. It's a pretty good outing for him. After Mizorowski exited, the Milwaukee bullpen continued where he left off. 9 more Ks, just 2 more hits allowed over the final 4 innings of this game. The Brewers, see, I don't know if you know this, D-Day, but you get 27 outs in a 9-inning baseball game. I went to East Carolina. My math's not great, but I love baseball and know that's the case. When 20 of your 27 outs are strikeouts, that's something worth paying attention to. Once again, the Milwaukee Brewers avoiding being ignored, refusing to be ignored. That NL Central race, it could be one of the more fun battles, fun pennant races to follow this year. While the Brewers won 14-2, which was the widest margin of any result we saw all on opening day, the Cubs lost to the Nationals 10-4. D-Day's Nationals, 162-0. Here they come. The Pirates, the Reds, they're going to be worth keeping an eye on. Can you really ever write off the Cardinals? Doesn't seem like that you can. The Milwaukee Brewers refuse to be ignored. Refuse. And today, a noteworthy story in the sport. 310-840-4910. We're asking the question, is the Big Ten the best conference in college basketball this year? They have 3 in the Elite Eight. They might get 2 more. B. Daly says, didn't know we were living in the past. What's going to be your excuse when a Big Ten team wins this year? You're all bark, no bite. If the Big Ten wins the national championship, then if you get all the teams to the Elite Eight and to the Final Four and win the title, see, the SEC hadn't won a national championship since 2012, prior to Florida winning the title a year ago. But do you know what we said about the SEC when they got 14 of their 16 teams in and they got a couple in the Final Four and won the national championship? We said they were the best conference in college basketball because saying otherwise would be stupid. What I'm asking is, hey, can you call yourself the best conference in the country if you haven't won a championship in 26 years? So instead of answering the question, well, we just answered the question you asked. Hey, you're the best if you win, and we'll say so. Just like we did with football. Didn't we do this with football not too long ago? Hey, the SEC is the best conference in football. Is anyone saying that right now? When the Big Ten's won 3 straight national championships and the SEC hasn't even had a finalist in football? No, the Big Ten's the best conference in football right now, in college football. But you got to win titles. You just do. Like, I know I'm supposed to be the ACC guy and rep the ACC and all that, but they only got 1 team to the second weekend. Last year, they only got 4 teams in the tournament altogether. The Big 12 Conference is the best conference in college basketball right now. They are, and if they were healthier, it probably would bear itself out more in the numbers, but I still venture to say Arizona's better than any of the other Big Ten teams. So rather than answer the question, what would it be if they won, the question instead is, can you call the Big Ten the best conference in college basketball if they don't cut down nets this year? If they don't win it all, regardless of how many Elite Eight or Final Four teams even that they get. If you haven't won it all in 26 years, you can't call yourself the best conference. Sorry. Just have issue with that. One time? It's been a quarter century. A quarter century since it's happened. Come on. D-Day, I don't know if you're going to rep for the Big Ten. I'm not going to Oliver.
Oh, yeah, brother.
This is a segment for Oliver because he loves his baseball. He's like, when are we going to talk about the Dodgers? And he's Big Ten Ollie over there. We're not going to him. I'm going to you. Because in the good cop, bad cop scenario here, you're the sensible good cop that I'm talking to here. Can a league call itself the best conference within the sport if they haven't won a title in 26 years? That is the question.
Yeah, because the SEC football teams still do it. They still been doing it.
I mean, the SEC propaganda machine is going to do its thing. That's fine. I'm asking you, not asking if you can make the argument. I'm asking, would you consider a conference to be the best conference within a sport if none of their teams have won a title in 26 years?
So let's paint a hypothetical to answer your question. If,
Sure.
or potentially when, the legendary Mark Few gets over the hump, are they the best conference because they had a champion, or is there still better conferences than their conference?
No, again, you're right to say Mark Few, Gonzaga, that's the best team and that's worth celebrating. That's fine. I get what you're getting at. What I'm asking is, it's the sample. It's 26 years. 26 years. Not one time when you get more bids than anybody else, have you been able to win a championship? That tells me something might be wrong with you. If you haven't done it in 26 years while everybody else is, if you're claiming to be the best, you have to win it all eventually.
I agree with that, and I think they need to. I'm in agreement that they need to win a championship before the 30-year mark. Is that fair?
Here's the hypothetical. Here's the
before 30?
hypothetical I thought you were going to paint. If Michigan State, Illinois, Michigan, and Arizona get to the Final Four, and Arizona cuts down nets.
What do you think the smallest margin of victory? I think the better question, or a more fascinating question, is what is the smallest margin of victory going to be for Arizona? Because it does feel like they're starting to very slowly put together like one of those UConn runs from a few years ago where they are just mowing down everybody.
Did they do that against Utah State? I thought they missed a ton of free throws, and that was closer than we thought.
They did, but they still won by 12.
Okay, well, trying to think, has anyone just blown out people yet? Iowa State's done that, even without Josh Jefferson. They've killed that. They killed Kentucky.
But if we're expecting, because I think you're kind of a silly goose if you think that anyone other than Arizona is going to win right now. I mean, they are just destroying everybody. So if we are,
did you just say the expression "silly goose"? That's great.
Yeah, silly goose in a pond. But you're a silly goose if you watch them and think that someone's going to beat them right now because they're just mowing down everybody. I find that to be fascinating. Like when they win, if they just keep doing this, is it like UConn a couple of years ago when they did play a game that was single digits? Because remember, that was such a massive deal that they are just destroying everybody.
But hold one second. We have perhaps the best team in the country, D-Day, in Arizona, as you're describing aptly and accurately, and the Elite Eight drawing the preseason #1 team, Purdue. If the Big Ten is for real, that might be a team that could maybe. I know I'm not preaching to the choir and saying that Purdue is going to have a shot against Arizona.
I mean, can I get another team? Like, can I phone a friend and get a swap there?
That's another team, by the way. You haven't been to the Final Four in 25 years. So Arizona, Purdue, that's going to be interesting. Would it have been as interesting as Texas winning that game tonight and facing Arizona? No.
Not quite.
Not quite, but still interesting. We might see, in the spirit of looking ahead, we might see the best story in the NCAA tournament play out on Friday night. And we'll tell you what that is next on Westwood One Sports Night.
Tournament tension is at an all-time high. On the way, and good! And we've got your front row seat. Stream all of March Madness on the Westwood One app.
It's up, it's down!
From your home of the NCAA tournament, Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
We're not doing this tonight, but I'm not a big fan of the song One Shining Moment.
The ball is tipped.
We're not doing this tonight, but we will. Sometime between now and me being at the Final Four and doing some shows from Indianapolis. Did you know you can watch the show in addition to listening to it? You can chime in with us on YouTube. Westwood One Sports Night is the YouTube channel. Brave Seminole writes in, where's Linnell tonight? That's actually the wrong question to be asking. The question you should be asking is, where was Linnell today? And we have an answer on that in just a bit with some sound that is frankly incredible. It's perfect audio. It might be my favorite piece of sound I've heard since we started doing this show. That's how good it is. He was at Media Days for the DC Regional Media Day. Duke, St. John's, Michigan State, UConn, the games in DC. Linnell will be there. Denton will be there tomorrow night, Friday night. Excited for those games. Regardless if we're in attendance, it's going to be really fun to watch. We might see the best story of this NCAA tournament play out in Washington, D.C. Duke point guard Caleb Foster might return to action against Rick Pitino's St. John's Johnnies. And if that happens, it would be the story of the Sweet 16. Not even 3 weeks ago, Caleb Foster broke his foot. It happened in the regular season finale against North Carolina. We were at that game. Westwood One carrying it. And it was one of those injuries you just knew in the building it was bad right away. He went to the bench, and our seats were just beyond the Duke bench, keeping an eye. We had a good angle on this. The trainer goes to take Caleb Foster's shoe off. And he's in so much pain every single time he touched the shoe, they couldn't even get it off for about 5 minutes. Immense pain. Goes to the locker room. Doesn't return for the start of halftime. Second half begins. He returns to the bench in a boot, and he's emotional. John Shire walks up to him, checking on how he's doing. Whatever was said in that brief exchange led Caleb to get visibly emotional. And then he heard someone right behind his left shoulder say something. And he turns around to see who it is. And this might be the most Duke Carolina experience or Duke Carolina anecdote ever. It's Chris Paul, who's sitting right behind him. And Chris had something to say to Caleb. Caleb dapped him up. In that moment, the next day, by the way, 18 days ago, Duke announced that Caleb had fractured his foot. It seemed like he was done. It seemed like his season was over. It's unrealistic to expect this guy coming back. But despite the odds, Caleb, he might return for this St. John's game in the Sweet 16. Here was the latest update from John Shire regarding Foster.
When he got hurt, he told me, look, if I do this and work every day, you got to promise me you're going to let me put this uniform on again with our guys. And he's in a position where he's going to try to do that tomorrow night. And he had a good day of practice yesterday, doing a little bit. We have to see how he feels today. And then hopefully he progresses well enough tomorrow where, again, it's not like there's a lot of practice time, but we have to make sure he's in position before the game. It'll be more of a game time decision. But he's going to give it everything he has to go tomorrow night.
Having him would be a significant lift for the Blue Devils. Not just because he's an upperclassman leader, but he gives Duke a second true point guard along with Caden Boozer. Right now, Duke's second point guard is Cam Boozer. You know, the power forward that's going to go top 5 in the draft. Like, that's their second best option in a half-court offense, to have him playing point guard for him. That's how good of a passer he is, but that's also not an ideal place to be if you're Duke. But I would give them a 9-man rotation, and it would make the Blue Devils even better than they are right now. And they're a team that has only lost twice this year. The only teams that could say that and are still playing, well, the only teams going into the tournament that could say that, Arizona and Duke. Those are the teams. Caleb is the type of story you can root for. We hear about in college basketball, every team has these guys that have transferred multiple times and there's no connection to the school that they're at. Caleb's a homegrown junior. He didn't transfer in, and more importantly, he didn't transfer out when he had to take a back seat last season to that supremely talented Duke team. He had to go to the bench with Tyrese Proctor, and you had Con Knipple, and you just had better dudes, Sion James, that were running things at the point. So he had to go to the bench. He was humbled by it, and now playing more of an impact before he went down with the injury. This is a guy who's been through a lot in his career. An Elite Eight loss to nearby rival NC State as a freshman, a Final Four collapse against Houston, and now this injury at an inopportune time, his junior season. If he's able to play and finish his Duke career on the court, Caleb is already a winner despite what the scoreboard might read. All of you are winners for the sound that you're about to hear. Answering the question where Linnell Willingham was. He was waiting in what appears to be the loading dock of Capital One Arena in D.C., where he saw UConn coach Dan Hurley walking in with the Huskies. And there are few people on this planet I love more than Linnell Willingham for his sincerity. And he's a charmer, man. Ability to try to reach out, connect with whoever. That's something that we connect over, Linnell and I. He couldn't help himself with Dan Hurley walking by with a crew of people. You won't get that with just the audio, but just know Dan Hurley's walking up with his SID and 3 or 4 other people. It's like an entourage when this exchange happened.
Yeah, he knows who I am. That's right.
Wait, did we not get to the end of the clip? Oh, no. Goodness. Maybe we edited it slightly short earlier, D-Day. But he said to Dan Hurley, "Hey, Dan," and the response was what? "What's up?" That's magical to me. Does it not make you smile, Denton?
That means we have to bet
Dan Hurley. No, well, I have Michigan State going to the Final Four. Dan Hurley's walking by, who Linnell Willingham's never been in the same room with. And he says to Coach Hurley, "Hi, Dan." And Dan Hurley responds with, "What's up?"
You're not going to bet him, though? You got to bet him. He's
No,
now
I
a friend
don't.
he's a friend of the program.
Oh. So, hold 1 second. Now, this is very important. This is a very important question we're about to ask. 310-840-4910 or in the chat, Westwood One Sports Night. You can text us. You can call us at 310-840-4910. Did Linnell Willingham meet Dan Hurley? There was no physical exchange. There was no dap. It was Dan Hurley walking by, and about 10 feet away from Dan Hurley, Linnell says, "Hi, Dan," and Dan says, "What's up?" as he walks away through a door. Did Linnell Willingham meet Dan Hurley? What qualifies as a meeting?
Exchange. I would call that an exchange. He said one thing. There was a call and response.
It was an exchange, but is that meeting? Can Linnell Willingham go on his show Saturday morning from 8 to 11 a.m. and say, "I met Dan Hurley"?
Only if he wins. I mean, if Dan Hurley loses on Friday, then no, certainly not. We don't want to support losers. We're not soft, like Dan Hurley said. We, as a society. But if he wins, yeah, of course. Flex it. You know what I mean?
What were the highlights? You were out there as well.
I was.
Teams rolling through. What were the highlights of the DC Sweet 16, Elite 8 regional media availability?
I can tell you a low light first. You want a low light?
Yeah.
What you described as the loading dock is the media room.
Is that right?
Yeah, like Dan Hurley is literally walking past the media room into the interview room in the clip that you just played, which is available on our YouTube page, Westwood One Sports Night.
Check it out.
That's literally, you look and you see there are black curtains. He's walking in front of black curtains. That is the media room. It's not an actual room. It's curtained off.
Hold 1 second. We need to find the actual audio. I know it's somewhere because it's that good. I think we have it in some texts, and we can dig it up because I think it speaks to Linnell being somebody who feels as if Dan Hurley needs to hear what Linnell has to say, even if what he says is hi, Dan. I frankly want Linnell to do that with every coach the rest of the tournament. That's what I want. I want John Shire. I want John Shire. The first thing he hears after finishing up his press conference, we'll see if it's after a win against St. John, walking off, is Linnell saying, "Hi, John." That's what I want. So you mentioned a low light. Is there a highlight that you'd like?
I mean, there are many highlights. Getting to hang around the players is always a cool time.
In the locker room?
Big Pat at Duke is the tallest human being that I have ever walked side by side with. He has taken the crown from Naz Reid, who I walked side by side with at this very same event 7 years ago, or I guess 7 years ago now, when LSU and Duke and Virginia Tech and Michigan State were all in D.C. The last time they were here. Big Pat is unbelievably tall.
He's big. Big Pat. Gamba. Big dude.
I was like completely stunned. I was like, oh my God. 7 feet tall.
I guess you
can't
I
fake
guess
it.
you had no reason to get close to him in Chapel Hill. Probably not.
No, we literally just walked past each other. The way they do availability, there's like locker room openings, and he was not really available in the locker room opening because he is a good player. Like they take the good players away and do press conferences rather than
podium.
Regular availability. So he was not regularly available. But then I walked past him and I was like, oh my God, this guy is massive. Also, fun fact, I don't think this is trade secrets. I apologize if it is. Duke loves Uncrustables. Their locker room loaded with Uncrustables. Like to the point where I was like, I don't really want to get yelled at, but man, that Uncrustable is staring me in the soul right now. All the different flavors. They had some strawberry. They had some grape in there. Michigan State, whose locker room I was in, did not have Uncrustables, and there was a big difference.
It's key. If Duke plays Michigan State, something to consider.
I mean,
maybe the
love
betting
Uncrustables, so that this is actually a very large deal to me.
Word to our friends at DraftKings.
Also, there are a number of coaches in the Michigan State program that we had a bonding moment. Right, so I might be able to say that I met these guys because we had a bonding moment in the Michigan State locker room availability, turning to watch the television that was ESPN, and Michigan State was playing in hockey UConn. And I was like, that's funny. They're playing UConn tomorrow. They're playing UConn in hockey. It's a 1-4 matchup. Yeah, shout out to the Ice. And a bunch of coaches and me, they don't know who I am at all, but a bunch of coaches and me were like, oh my God, this is the craziest thing in the world. UConn and Michigan State playing each other in hockey the day before they play each other in the Sweet 16.
This is what you can get only here. And this is why
Might
we're
do a
going to
cookie
take over.
review tomorrow on Twitter. So there you go.
This is why we're going to take over the world. This show, this segment. I mean, rave reviews, only positive stuff. Jay Bird writes in, this is some of the worst radio I've ever had to listen to.
Thank you.
We love our fans. That's what we're here for. We're here for you. Jay Bird, 408.
Subscribe.
Shout out. Subscribe. Westwood One Sports Night. Do the thing where you sound like one of those YouTubers, one of those Zoomers saying, ring the bell. Subscribe to the channel. Click, like and subscribe.
Smash the like button.
Smash it. Smash it down. Let's stay in the ACC. Or should I say smash it down. Because of our show tonight, on the show, an ACC basketball coach joined us and fired a shot at another ACC coach. But here's the thing. We don't quite know what coach he was talking about exactly, which allows for us to speculate. Next.
Happy MLB opening week. A fresh scorebook. A brand new season. Infinite possibilities. Your team's alive. Your dream is real. Baseball's back, and we're all better for it. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
Steve Forbes, Wake Forest basketball coach, joined us earlier. And he had some thoughts on Hubert Davis's firing at North Carolina. Had some kind things to say about Hubert. But then he wanted to express some pointed comments about one of his fellow ACC basketball coaches. Because Jeff Goodman of the Field of 68, shortly after Hubert was fired, posted this on X. Quote, one ACC head coach said this to me on Hubert Davis's departure. I had really hoped he was going to be the coach there forever. No one in the ACC was scared of him. I'm worried that they hire someone really good now because if you get a big-time guy at UNC, they could be right up there with Duke again. That's what Jeff Goodman had to say, according to one ACC head coach, which narrows the pool to 17, because obviously Hubert's not saying that. Well, we can narrow that pool to 16 as well, because this is what Steve Forbes had to say about it.
Same way, I think with Hubert, I just really like him, and somebody tweeted something yesterday that was completely unprofessional about him and the league, and actually I sent it to the league office because I was just disgusted. I mean, if you're going to say that, put your name on it. That's weak. Because he doesn't deserve that. The nature of these jobs, especially at a place like that has really high expectations.
He doesn't deserve that, is what Hubert Davis had to say. Said he was disgusted by it. Said that someone should put his name on it. Now let's play the game, Denton Day. Who told Jeff Goodman that? Because there are really 3 candidates it could possibly be. 3 candidates told Jeff Goodman that. And you tell me what's most likely. The one that everybody's pointing to is Will Wade. Because Will Wade beat the brakes off of North Carolina when they didn't have Caleb Wilson. That's the only time they played him. And also, why would he care if there are any ramifications if this ever got back to him? He's now leaving to go to LSU. That's candidate number 1. Candidate number 2, and also that sounds like something Will Wade would say. Number 2, Kyle Smith, friend of the show from Stanford. This is a guy who is known to express some opinions that might rub people the wrong way. You remember the side swipe he had at Oklahoma, where he's remembering old stuff, trying to advocate for them being in the tournament? He did that a year ago, saying that the ACC might embrace relegation, in a sense, with scheduling, even though he was just in year 1 of the ACC. Other ACC coaches were telling me, who's this guy? We rescued you from the ACC. Now you're telling us how to run our league? Get out of here. That's candidate number 2, who, by the way, played North Carolina twice. Beat them twice. Beat them at Stanford this year. Won in the Smith Center with Maxime Reynaud last year. Candidate number 3, Jeff Capel. This is a guy that has won multiple times in the Smith Center. He's a Duke guy. A little bit of bad blood there, maybe. Was a longtime Duke assistant, too. I think it's one of those 3 guys who wrote that post. Who is it most likely didn't day?
It's got to be William Wade. Just destroying everything on the way out. Not a care in the world. He got his bag. This feels like a Will Wade move.
Yeah. Which brings us to the latest with him. If you thought North Carolina firing Hubert Davis was going to be the craziest headline in the state of North Carolina, coaching carousel-wise, NC State said, hold my beer, because Will Wade is back at LSU. That's right, LSU brings back the man who had their program in shambles because he lied and cheated, and then lied about the cheating. It's insane. And here's the thing. It actually is a bad look for both Will Wade and NC State. We'll get to NC State in a second. There's a level of scrutiny that you receive coaching on Tobacco Road that's just different. And all the national media loves Will Wade because he's candid and friends with all of them. So they say things. John Rothstein calls him an American gangster and all this stuff. Oh, yeah, he's going to go in there. He's going to shake up the state of North Carolina. But the problem with that is this place is different than other places in the country. You're not the team in the town that you're in, the way that you are every other stop you've been. LSU, you are the Tigers or the show, plain and simple. In North Carolina, specifically in the triangle, the research triangle, you're not the team, you're just a team. And you're always going to be fighting an uphill battle with your neighbors, Duke and North Carolina, who are right there. Again, that's different than being at LSU, where you have all the media who are super friendly because they know you don't rock the boat with LSU. They're the show in town. You want to make sure they're happy. At NC State, if you make the folks at NC State upset, okay, fine. We'll spend more time at North Carolina and Duke. You're just one of those teams. And it's why Will Wade went viral with a few moments this year in press conferences where reporters dared ask him questions that were somewhat critical. He probably didn't like it. So go back to the cozier place where football drives everything and fans aren't going to really keep score and hold you accountable for how little you beat Kentucky or win games that matter. That's where he's going. But going back to optics here, Will Wade, here he was 2 weeks ago. These rumors aren't new. Here was Will Wade being asked about the LSU rumors at the ACC tournament.
No, is the job open there? Huh? No? So why would, I'm not, listen, let me be very clear. I'm excited at NC State. I was hired at NC State to do a job. This wasn't going to take 1 year. I've already met with our administration about next year and some of the changes that we need to make and some of the things that we need to do to put this program where it deserves long term. So I'm not, I don't, I'm not on social media. I'm not into gossip. I'm not into any of that sort of stuff. But look, we're going to win, and we're going to win big at NC State.
Just flat out lying. He knows. Again, LSU hired McNeese's president and AD there, and those guys hired Will Wade at McNeese just a few years ago. He knows. He knew what was up then. And NC State deserves some blame for this as well, because you hired Will Wade, a known cheater who's shameless as they come in college basketball. You knew he was going to get players. You knew he was going to get back into the NCAA tournament quickly and perhaps even have a top 25 team. So with that being the case, how on earth is Will Wade's buyout only $5 million and soon to be $3 million on April 1st, just 1 year into the job? At a high major school, at an ACC school, 1 year in, it's only going to cost $3, $4, $5 million. That's nuts. For perspective, the buyout to fire North Carolina's GM is higher than that. So in a way, State is almost fortunate that this season didn't go as well as they thought it might with the hype, because that would make today look a lot worse on State AD Boo Corrigan's part, the former CFP chair. So what happens moving forward? Well, we need a good, solid nickname now for the coaching trio of Lane Kiffin, Will Wade, and Kim Mulkey at LSU. Early leader in the clubhouse being the Insufferables. ESPN needs to give us LSU at NC State in the ACC SEC Challenge next year, because holy hell would that be a scene in Raleigh. And NC State, just do the thing you should have done last year. Hire Tennessee associate head coach Justin Gainey, the presumed coach in waiting for Rick Barnes in Tennessee. He's an NC State alum, and his team's still coaching in the Sweet 16. That's the move. Coming up, we have some bets to hand out in the Sweet 16, the remaining Sweet 16 games, and we look ahead for the first time to the Elite Eight next.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
In quite the sports talk faux pas, I teased a clip that I said was one of the most entertaining clips I've heard since this show launched, and I didn't deliver on it because apparently it was cropped too early from the original video that included the sound that I needed. It involves Linnell Willingham and maybe the best college basketball coach going right now, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. I didn't deliver before, which means I must bounce back and deliver now. But that can wait just a few minutes. Easy, Oliver. He's all jacked up on Mountain Dew and Big Ten basketball. Ollie just fist pumping the last few hours, watching Big Ten teams left and right advance to the Elite Eight. So he's trigger happy right now. I don't know, honestly, how he has this type of energy this late, and I appreciate it. I'm not even mad about it. So rather than continue the filibuster, yes, it's time for tonight's Graham's Gambling.
Sitting back, count money all day, you know. It's time for Graham's Gambling. Let's make some money.
Let's do that. Even though I didn't make money tonight because I bet Houston minus the points and they got beat by Illinois tonight. You win some, you lose some. We're turning the page to the Sweet 16 action on Friday. And D-Day, according to our friends at DraftKings, Michigan State is an underdog against UConn. It's a small underdog, plus 1.5 points. Nah, we're just going to go plus 110 money line, Michigan State to beat the UConn Huskies. In the end, I have more trust in Michigan State's players than I do UConn. I think there's a ceiling for what this Michigan State team can do, but I believe they have a much higher floor than what UConn possesses. And I truly believe that we're going to be talking about tomorrow more Big Ten success with Michigan and Michigan State. And I think Michigan State beats UConn to advance to the Elite Eight. D-Day, we have point spreads for the Elite Eight matchups that are already set based on tonight's results. You haven't seen these yet. We're going to let you guess.
Okay.
The all Big Ten showdown in Houston. Ninth seeded Iowa facing number 3 seed Illinois. Where's the line at?
So I got to feel like Illinois the favorite. What they did to Houston. Iowa feels like a team of destiny, Cinderella, if you will. I'm going to say Illinois minus 6.5.
Got it right on the nose.
Too nice. Too nice with it. Don't test me.
Purdue advances to the Elite Eight. Preseason number 1, facing what looks like the number 1 team in the country currently, the Arizona Wildcats that just dispatched of Arkansas. What is that line?
Well, so this is why I brought up that question earlier, because Arkansas is just mowing everybody down. They were 11.5-point favorites.
Arizona is.
Arizona,
You said
sorry.
Arkansas.
They were 11.5-point favorites over Arkansas. I'm going to say that line is a little bit shorter than Arkansas, but probably a little bit longer than Illinois and Iowa. I'm going to go Arizona minus 8.5.
It's also 6.5.
Really?
You just don't like Purdue at all. So
no, I think Arizona has not shown any weakness at all.
I want a little bit more time to think about this, but snap reaction right now on a Friday, Graham's gambling, Arizona might be on the card. There's a chance of that.
I don't know. I'm worried if that number is so low. If I was, because I thought I was shooting low. I thought it was going to be 9. I was like, yeah, let me go 8. This 9.5 is a big line in the Elite Eight, but 6.5. Am I missing something?
In terms of picking games for the Sweet 16, think Duke does win this game. It does worry me, Rick Pitino having this much time to prepare, and I love Zuby Ejiofor, but I think Duke wins this game. Michigan gets through Alabama. Michigan State, as mentioned. Iowa State's Tennessee, it's a little bit of a shrug. That's how I felt, frankly, about all of Tennessee games to this point. Tennessee's first-round game felt that way. All right, shrug shoulders. What are you going to do with Miami of Ohio? Virginia, shrug shoulders. What exactly is it going to be? And here they are. Here they are advancing through, facing Iowa State that's bludgeoned the first 2 teams that they've played. We don't know if Josh Jefferson's going to play in the game. My guess is no. But we'll see. That's a 10-10 Eastern tip on Friday night. Since I have Iowa State in the Final Four, I'll say Iowa State wins the game for that purpose and that purpose alone. Now let's get to the sound. By the way, ring the bell. We're getting close. Last call for phone calls. Setting the scene. Linnell Willingham, my partner in crime here on Westwood One Sports Night. He's at the regional media day in Washington, D.C., where all these teams that we just mentioned, or at least 4 of them, Duke, St. John's, Michigan State, and UConn are, meeting with reporters. They open up locker room, all of that. And Dan Hurley comes walking by, and Linnell couldn't help himself but to say something to Dan Hurley.
Yeah, he knows who I am. That's right.
Hey, Dan.
What up?
I don't know what part's funnier, Denton. I don't know what's funnier, if it's the sheepish, hey, Dan, or if it's the response by a seemingly surprised, bewildered Dan Hurley who does not know the person that just said his name, hey, Dan, and his response is to say, what up?
No, you missed it. He said, yo, what up?
Oh, one more time. Let's listen to it back, because we might need to listen to this in pieces, too. Like, what's better between this clip? It's short, but it's sweet. One more time. To re-rack this thing from Capital One Arena in our nation's capital, Linnell Willingham. I don't know if we could say he meets Dan Hurley, because Dan Hurley,
have a text message that says, yes, Linnell Willingham met Dan Hurley.
Because Dan Hurley is about 10 feet away from Linnell, and he's walking by with his crew when this happens.
Yeah, he knows who I am. That's right.
Hey, Dan.
What up?
It's Linnell.
It's the bald
It's
fraternity.
Linnell.
I use the word yo. Dan Hurley uses the word no. There's something about bald people loving the word yo.
It's true. Every time he picks up the phone, yo, what up, gangsta? That's Denton Day for you. Do you know what honestly makes the Linnell part so great? Honestly. It's the only time I've ever heard Linnell not sound completely convicted in whatever Linnell is saying. It's the only time I've ever heard it. Like, Linnell generally says everything with his chest. He's the youngest in charge. He's ride with me. Oh, yeah, the whole thing. Listen to me, damn it, 110%. That's Linnell. But in this moment, he sounded like me when I'm trying to talk to the girl I have a crush on in high school, but I'm nervous and don't know what to say. Hey, Dan. That's the part that makes that great to me. Because I feel like I heard a different Linnell than the Linnell that we hear every day. And honestly, behind the scenes, like, Linnell might be one of the most confident people I know. So he was a little bit out of his element. And, you know, I love that for him. I love that for Linnell. Is this an accurate reading? You've known the guy much longer than I have.
I definitely think they met. I'm counting it.
All right, we're counting it.
Yeah, we're going to check the box. They met. I bet Dan Hurley points to him on Friday.
Hi, Linnell.
He's hit him with a
yo,
what up?
Yo, what up, Linnell? Yo. I'm still in favor of him doing this with all the coaches. John Shire walking up. Hi, John. No, the funniest one might be the 65 and ups.
I did this with you. Well, not to you. But I did this with you at Duke UNC.
What happened?
I did this to Carlos Boozer.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You did do that with Carlos Boozer.
I did.
Hey, Carlos. Hey, Carlos.
Well, I didn't say that. Easy now.
No, I don't know if he hit you with a yo, what up.
Well, I said, yo, what up, Booze? And we fist pumped. We gave knucks.
I'm trying to think if I've done that before. Because I almost certainly have. I'm just trying to think who it might be.
I'm sure you have. Everyone has done this
I know
in some
I have.
capacity.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to think who that might be. Using the name of the person that's famous that does not know you for sure.
What should he have called him? Are you going to pull like a Deion Sanders, I only respond to coach?
Well, no, I think coach is more customary if you don't know him. Generally, than first name. I'm not saying you can't call somebody by their name. Like in formal settings, I do it all the time. In press conferences, I do it. That's your name. I don't do the coach thing generally that much. But outside of that setting, when you're not asking questions specifically, I don't know. That might be the casual drop. Hey, coach, or maybe hit him with a buddy. What's up, guy? I don't know.
I don't know if you want to get too creative there with Dan Hurley. Like, there's certain coaches where I think you have some like creative leniency on what you can call them. But you say the wrong thing to Dan Hurley. Hey guy might mean something completely different to him. He's a little bit of an insane person. Hey guy could just mean dukes up.
See, what defines this East region and this region site in DC are the coaches that are there. I think the funniest possible examples is what would happen if Linnell did this with the 65 and up coaches. Like if Rick Pitino were walking by and Linnell said, "Hey Rick, Or
smacked him with a plate of pasta.
Or if it was Tom Izzo. Hey, Tom. Are we sure that was Linnell? Or am I giving the wrong person credit?
You're probably getting a Coach Izzo.
Are we sure that the voice on that clip was Linnell's voice?
No.
We're not sure of that. We don't know that.
I mean, it is plausible that somebody else could have been standing next to him and said that. It's plausible. I would say it's a small percentage chance.
This is like video replay. We think it's Linnell. The call on the field is Linnell said that, but we don't have any conclusive evidence
this would
to
be
overturn.
Like the call stands, not confirmed. You know what I mean?
Right. The call on the field stands. Linnell. Do we have it one more time? The call on the field stands that Linnell, he was the one to say to Dan Hurley, "Hey, Dan," leading to the exchange that makes me smile. Just that I enjoy.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah, that's our guy.
I'd love the yo what up pops me every single time.
It's incredible.
Dan Hurley and I are literally the same person. Just one of us coaches basketball and the other one does late night radio.
You think he answers yo what up gangsta to his phone calls? You think he does that?
Maybe not exactly that, but the fact that he just casually uses yo, he and I are cut from the same cloth.
All right. Here's what I'm committing to right now on this segment. I'm committing to it. If UConn gets to the Final Four, I'm going to recreate this exchange with Dan Hurley. It's going to happen. Dan Hurley's going to walk by, and I'm going to try to sheepishly say, "Hey, Dan," to see if I can get him to recreate yo, what up. That's what I'm committing to doing in Indianapolis, doing the Lord's work. Make sure you're on our YouTube channel, Westwood One Sports Nights, where you can watch us in addition to listening to us. Pine Needle. Hi, Josh. Hey, see what you did there. Hi, Josh. Hey, Dan. And Dallas 151. Josh Graham is the Dennis the Menace. Is Dennis the Menace all grown up? There we go. We're going to try to do something very difficult here, Denton. We're in the last hour of this show, and there's so much for us to talk about that we haven't gotten to yet, or we haven't talked about extensively. So we're going to react to as many opening day and Sweet 16 games as possible and do it all in one segment next on Westwood One Sports Night.
The landscape of the NFL has shifted massively this month. And as we head towards the draft, what will happen next? The NFL never sleeps, and neither do we. On your home for the NFL, Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
Let's hit on all that you might have missed. Sweet 16 action. Opening day in Major League Baseball. On the basketball front, you had two really close games between Purdue and Texas. A game-winning shot in the final second, winning it for Purdue. You had Iowa beat Nebraska in Farmageddon with a key basket and one coming off of Nebraska having just four players on the court. Outlet pass off the inbounds, and one up by 3, and then the free throw made put you up 6 to put that one away. And then in the nightcap, it really is staggering that the Houston Cougars are done. Staggering. Illinois wins the game. Houston's the story. Because this Illinois team is not good defensively. Flat out. They're not top 50 in opposing points per game in the country. They're not even top 30 in opposing field goal percentage. An average mid-defensive team. This is a team that has allowed 90 points 4 different times this year, including in late February when they blew a 20-point lead to UCLA and allowed 90. 95, pardon. Despite all this, Houston couldn't shoot. In the first half, Houston shot 27%. From the floor, 23% from three. And this is supposed to be a team. This is the part, honestly, that's unforgivable about this. You're supposed to be a team known for its toughness. You made Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, Sion James, and John Shire in the Final Four say uncle in the last 5 minutes of that game. They collapsed because of your toughness level. And you get to the free throw line for 2 attempts in this game? Unforgivable. Unbelievable. 2 free throw attempts. Not a criticism of the refs. It's a criticism of Houston. And it was all set up for the Cougs. The number 1 seed in their bracket lost last weekend. Down goes Florida. Number 9 Iowa beat them. And as mentioned, Iowa advanced to the Elite 8, which means if Houston were to win tonight, all that would have separated them from the Final Four was playing a number 9 seed in your bracket with a first-year coach. And the regional is held in Houston, Texas. These were essentially home games for Houston. It could not have been better set up. And this is why it might be the end of Kelvin Sampson's career. Because he's 70. Seems like he's soon going to pass the program off to his assistant coach, who happens to be his son. A lot like what Bruce Pearl did at Auburn. And if he wasn't going to win a national title with last year's team, that was one of those 4 superhero-like superior teams that went to the title game, that beat Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple. If he wasn't going to win with that team, and he didn't win with this one that had a top 5 NBA draft pick and Kingston Flemings on it, and Uzan back, and Emmanuel Sharp back, and Tugler back, it's just not going to happen. And it might be now time to step away, knowing that the team's going to probably be dramatically different next year, and you're probably not going to have a title contender. So Houston was the story from that one. Arizona, this is the first time in the tournament where Arizona has looked like the team we saw all throughout the regular season, looking like the best team in college basketball. Because it's a funny thing that happens. See, being boots on the ground in the state of North Carolina, or as we belovedly and accurately call it, the Hoop State, we follow college basketball year-round. We love college basketball around here. College basketball is king in these parts. So if you've been watching Arizona all year, this isn't a surprise to you. They were the best team in the country in the regular season. It was them and Duke. Their non-conference schedule was insane. They beat Alabama in Birmingham. They beat UConn in Stores. They beat Florida, the reigning champs, on opening night in Vegas. They were in the best basketball conference and lost 2 games the entire season. But there are people who do shows such as this, and a lot of people nationally who don't pay attention to college basketball until March arrives. So if this is the first couple of weeks, these are the first couple of weeks you've watched basketball this year, you might not have seen Arizona, the hype with Arizona, until now. They shot over 60% in a Sweet 16 game. And unlike Houston, their strategy was, you got Brazil and Malik Ewan at the rim. You think you're tough? You think you have size on us? BS. We're going to drive it on you, and we're going to punch you in the mouth. They only attempted 8 threes tonight. Went to the line 39 times. 39 attempts from the free throw line. Just bully balling Arkansas, and it was never close. Charles Barkley might have been right in January when he said this is the Arizona Invitational. And all that separates the Wildcats from the Final Four is Purdue. And we'll see how that shakes out late on Saturday night. So that's the college basketball. And we've talked about all the games now. How about we get to as many takeaways as we possibly can get to from opening day of the Major League Baseball season. Did I mention, D-Day, that the Baltimore Orioles were 2-1 winners against the Minnesota Twins today? Did I mention that? Uh-huh. The Birds. The offense really wasn't there. Pete Alonso drew a walk, still looking for his first hit as an Oriole. But Trevor Rogers Cy Young season loading. 7 scoreless innings. Looking pretty good. Had that going on. Did you watch a second of the Nationals, your Nationals, 10-4 win against the Chicago Cubs?
No, because it is not readily available on any television service. I have to pay out of pocket, and I ain't doing that.
What? You can't in D.C. watch Washington?
No, so I don't know if you know this, but the Orioles ownership group is a bunch of terrible people, and then they held the Nationals with the Masson thing, and then Masson got destroyed, so there's not a local way to watch the Nationals. You got to pay extra.
I watched the Orioles on Masson, actually, so the Masson still carries the Orioles, but they don't carry the Nats. The Nats decided. That's a long inside the Beltway dramatic exchange that's been going on for a very long time that we don't really need to get into. But the Nats did beat the Chicago Cubs 10-4 today. Tariq Skubal, his pursuit of history begins today. This might be Trevor Rogers' top competition for the AL Cy Young, considering he's looking for his 3rd straight Cy Young award. Only 2 pitchers in baseball history have ever won the Cy Young 3 straight years. Greg Maddux and Randy Johnson, the other 2, and they both did it 4 straight times. But this is what's interesting. Greg Maddux and Randy Johnson did that while they were in the National League. This marks the 125-year anniversary of the creation of the American League. Skubal could be the first pitcher ever in the American League to win 3 straight AL Cy Youngs. So that's on the table for him. He opened the season with a solid day in the office. 74 pitches he tossed, 6 innings, 1 run off 3 hits with 3 Ks. The Tigers beat the Padres today 8-2 because of that great pitching performance. The Tigers, they're going to have to make a decision. They're going to have to decide, hey, do we want to roll the dice with Tariq Skubal for the entire season and risk not being able to re-sign him to a long-term deal like they failed this offseason to? Maybe potentially risk letting him walk as a free agent and not getting anything in exchange. Because with the Cy Young pitcher, even on a rental type of basis, you could get a haul in exchange for that. They did not have great talks this offseason. In fact, Detroit lost an arbitration case with Tariq, and he's due to be a free agent after this season. So Tariq Skubal, that's a big story. That's the American Cy Young winner from this past year. The National League Cy Young winner might have been the biggest story of the day, though. Paul Skeens, after winning that Cy Young in 2025, had the shortest start of his big league career to open up action. I didn't realize that NBC hadn't been partnered with Major League Baseball since 2000. So the first NBC Major League broadcast since the year 2000 was the Pirates facing the Mets in Flushing. Paul Skeens lasted 2/3 of an inning. Prior to today, he had pitched until at least the 4th inning in every start. He allowed 5 runs on the mound. That's tied for the most he's given up in his career. And this was after Pittsburgh jumped the game with Brandon Lau, bat of the game with Brandon Lau going yard. The Mets, they won the game 11-7. The shame of it all is the details. The details really do matter. With Paul Skeens' outing, his 2/3 of an inning, he should have been out of the inning with only 1 run crossing. O'Neal Cruz, who you might remember with the home run derby, hits baseballs harder than anybody. You talk about loud contact and it sounding different off the bat, O'Neal Cruz, one of those guys. Not the greatest defender. He made 2 of the worst plays you'll ever see a big league center fielder make on consecutive at-bats the first game of the year. losing it in the sky, doing the thing you should never do as a center fielder or an outfielder in that matter. Your first step being forward rather than back, and then it going over your head, 3-run scoring. And then the next at bat's just a casual fly ball to center, and you lose it in the sun and then try to alligator arm it. That's not going to work. Pittsburgh had to spend 6 relievers in the first game of the season because of O'Neal Cruz and because of Paul Skeens' 2/3 of an inning. At least they're off tomorrow because of how MLB likes to protect opening day for home teams. Are you aware of this, D-Day? That you have a lot of teams start on Thursday and then not play on Friday. In the event that Thursday's a rain out, you can have Friday be your opening day, and they try to protect that for teams. And that happens, by the way, with Monday, Tuesday next week, too.
Smart move by MLB. Round of applause, shall we say.
Yeah, and also getting several national games on NBC on TV on opening day. In the past, it always was frustrating. Wait, none of these games are on national networks? Come on. And NBC's presentation with Jason Benetti and Matt Vasgersian, who did the game on Netflix in San Francisco that ended right around the time our show was starting yesterday, but then found himself for a 1 o'clock first pitch in Flushing, New York. Guy working pretty hard. This loss, by the way, for the Pirates, it could be a bad omen for the Pittsburgh Pirates, who've had a lot of bad things happen to them, and this was the most optimistic they've been going into the year in a long time. But at least their newcomers did well. We mentioned Brandon Lau with the homer. Ryan O'Hearn, he scored a couple of runs today as well. So they at least had that going for them. And while we're shouting out teams, we need to shout out the Milwaukee Brewers, who refuse to be ignored. A team that finished with the best record in Major League Baseball last season. 97 wins, 4 more than the Dodgers. Better than anybody in the American League. This is a team that gets talked about next to none. Nobody's even considering them strongly in the NL Central because everyone's pointing to the Chicago Cubs that lost 10-4 to the Washington Nationals today. And yet, the Brewers, they did what? They won 11-4? 11-2? And you had Jacob Misiorowski on the mound, strike out 11 in 5 innings against those Chicago White Sox. Only 1 run off 2 hits. Yes, it's the White Sox. But after Misiorowski exited, Milwaukee's bullpen continued where he left off. 9 Ks with just 2 hits allowed over the final 4 innings. That's 20 strikeouts, if I'm doing my math correctly, for the Brewers in this game. Don't count out the Brew Crew in the NL Central. That could be a fun race with the Pirates, the Reds, the Cubs. Don't count them out. Wow, that was a lot of baseball. I almost feel uncomfortable. I almost feel borderline anxious talking that much baseball at one time, D-Day. Can only imagine how you're feeling. Why anxious? You know, feel like I'm breaking the rules.
What
Sports
rules?
Talk to talk that much Major League Baseball after opening day.
I think
Very
you're
exciting,
okay.
though. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that vote of approval. Really needed it. I just don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow or today on Friday since the Orioles don't play till Saturday. Don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Don't know what to do with my hands.
Enjoy life.
I have an idea. Ariel Epstein, lover of baseball, is going to be a guest with us on Friday. And Tom Crean's going to be on my Saturday show. Bang, bang. Appreciate Steve Forbes for joining us. If you missed that conversation, that's up on our YouTube channel. Search Westwood One Sports Night. He was fabulous with us, breaking down a ton of different matters and firing shots at an anonymous ACC head coach, fellow ACC head coach. We think. Maybe it's an SEC head coach now that was an ACC head coach when the text was sent to Jeff Goodman earlier this week. Maybe. What do we have in... Oh, wait. Bisco writes in. Fulgaris had his Jimmy Chitwood Hoosiers last-second moment. I'll make it. Back-to-back games he's had that from Iowa, where he had that and one layup, but he also had the shot against Florida, too, to win it, too. No one's having a better March than that guy. Alvaro Fulgaris from Iowa. Now what do we have and put it to bed?
I have stumbled across two trends, Josh Graham, both of which I love. They couldn't be more different from one another, and I'm going to guess they have made it across your particular timeline 0 times, but I'm going to share them with you next.
It's MLB opening week. The greatest reset button in sports. The grass is cut, the chalk is down, and the ballpark sounds like summer again. Welcome back, baseball. We missed you. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports presents Josh Graham.
A fight's about to break out on the show. You don't play knuck if you buck if you don't intend to scrap. That's how it works as we get set to put the finishing touches on tonight's Westwood One Sports Night. Denton Day, we've covered the story of how I had one request on my wedding day to my mother-in-law who was helping put this stuff together. She said, if you have any requests musically, let us know. We have a band. And the one request I made was asking, after the band finishes up and you get a DJ break, I need to hear at some point Knuck If You Buck. We've covered this ground before, haven't we?
Multiple times, yes.
Just making sure. I don't want to be, we don't want to be like the older couple that just regurgitates the same stories over and over again. But Knuck If You Buck by the Crime Mob is still that song for me that just gets you to a specific place where you're just locked in. The way when you were, say, in high school playing sports, you'd have that certain song that got you ready to go for the game. Eminem, Lose Yourself, or even Spacebound was that for me when I was in high school. Got me ready. Got me locked in. Clocks by Coldplay strangely did that. I don't know why. I can't really explain it. But it did. Clocks by Coldplay. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Hold on.
Just
what
got me fired up.
That got you fired up for what sport? Were you having an affair with somebody?
Soccer.
No further questions.
You didn't have a song like that when you played sports?
It was not
Coldplay. This track. That's fine. I'm saying it could be something else, obviously.
No, we're stuck on the fact that you just said I get locked in with Coldplay.
I said I
sleep.
did. Nowadays, I'm not.
You've told me that Coldplay's your favorite band, though.
No. The Avett Brothers are my favorite band, and then it's Coldplay. And then the rest of the top 5 of my favorite artists, in some particular order, it's The Killers, John Mayer,
having Coldplay in the top 2,
Kanye West,
like
Kanye West, if I'm still allowed to say that.
Having
just
Coldplay
with the music
in your top 2 means you get locked in with Coldplay.
I have a long history with Coldplay. I know the entire discography. That's the deal with Coldplay. But you're filibustering. You're not telling me.
This is
what
far more
it is
interesting
for you.
than what 18-year-old Denton listened to before a track meet. Your love of Coldplay is way more interesting.
I just really liked, and I still do like Coldplay. I do. I like that limestoney type of rock, European type of rock. U2, like that. Love Radiohead. See, this is the type of stuff I'm into. In fact, this morning, or a couple days ago, was driving Daniel to daycare in the morning, being all about that dad life. And usually if a car pulls up next to you that has the music blaring so loud, what type of music do you generally think it is that's blaring so loud that you can hear it through your car? like a car that's next to you.
The last 4 times that's happened to me, it's been Bad Bunny.
Yeah, usually it's hip hop, it's rap, or in this case, it's definitely something poppy. Somebody was blaring Fake Plastic Trees by Radiohead right next to me, and it was one of these massive trucks. It was one of these trucks, for some business, whoever was driving it, blaring, and it was at the part where he's like, I lost myself, I lost myself. And I turned it down so Daniel could hear Fake Plastic Trees for the first time. Turned down what I had on in the car. No, he was in a different car, but baby Daniel, that's the first time he heard Radiohead from some guy next to him blaring Fake Plastic Trees in his car.
Good to know.
There you go. Now let's put this show to bed.
All right, I have 2 stories for you. I'm going to give you dealer's choice. Do you want the story that's a little bit more nostalgic, or do you want the story that's hilariously horny?
Definitely the latter. Do you think Addie Bates or Drake told listen to Coldplay?
I mean, I listen to Coldplay. There's not my second favorite band.
Do you think either of them ride with Coldplay?
Addie Bates and I once on a previous network did a Coldplay song draft. So yes, I think she listens.
Wow, what was the first pick?
The first pick was one of their popular, super popular songs.
Viva La Vida?
Yeah, I think it was Viva La Vida. I didn't have any of the super
Yellow
popular songs. I had
Look
Yellow
at
on
the
mine.
stars. Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
my favorite song of all time.
I think Speed of Sound
Favorite
was my
song.
first pick. That's after the affair situation happened. And
My
we're
favorite
how can we
song
turn
by
this into
Coldplay
a
is my
segment?
favorite song ever. So the Avett Brothers are my favorite band. My favorite song, period, is The Scientist by Coldplay. It's my favorite song.
I think that one. I think Addie had that one. I'd have to go back and look at the
Shout out
draft
to Addie.
boards. I didn't think I'd be talking about it 5 months later. So you want the horny story, which, all right, late night radio, it checks out.
Yes.
We've talked about this before. You're not the most outdoorsy man in the world because you didn't know what Banff was. But do you follow any national parks on social media?
No, I do not.
They are impossibly horny, and it is the most hilarious thing. I was scrolling during a break, and I came across a TikTok that was a view from Shenandoah National Park, and the caption, on the screen, read, "This and a cougar in an $8 sundress," and it was posted by the official Shenandoah National Park TikTok account. My wife, earlier this week, at one point was laughing uncontrollably because Yellowstone National Park was posting thirst traps on TikTok.
I'm not.
Does that make you want to get
opposed
outside?
this, but maybe. I'm not opposed to that. What I am opposed to is when public service or law enforcement accounts are trying to be witty on social media. You know how you'll have the police department will have something involving an animal. It's this was very scary. It's a story involving a bear or some update. No, just if you're law enforcement or you're
on
a
Facebook,
public
aren't
service
you?
entity, I don't. Well, no, I see it get posted on other platforms. I'm not on Facebook, but that's generally where you see that stuff happen. I agree. I'm saying I'm against all of that. If you're public service, same thing with betting services, by the way, betting sites. How about just stick to giving me the odds, not you trying to be funny or you trying to troll or do parody stuff or any of that.
Yeah,
Let's
the
not do
parody
that.
stuff is
Sports
swinging a
betting
miss.
sites. Sports betting sites, let's not do that. And also the same goes for law enforcement agencies. But national parks, horn dog
It's
out.
just-
I don't care.
It's so horny, and it's the most hilarious thing in the world. I don't know why it pops me, but because when I think of National Park Services, I don't think of the most horny people in the world. but they're going at it, man. You just need an $8 sundress and a cougar, like Shenandoah National Park.
3 more deep cut Coldplay songs from different albums. In My Place from A Rush of Blood to the Head, The Hardest Part from X and Y, Lovers in Japan from the Viva La Vida album. All bangers. Don't think Drake Toll or Eddie Bates know anything about that. It's only right here. Bringing it. What a night. Baseball's back. College hoops. We'll try to top it tomorrow.
This is Westwood One Sports.